It was a picture-perfect sunny day in an ancient village, the kind where NPCs just chill and grind their daily tasks. But suddenly, the vibe shifted. A loud rumble shattered the peace, and the ground shook violently. Everyone panicked, thinking a massive earthquake had just hit the server. The villagers looked around in total confusion, asking each other, "Yo, did you feel that? Is the world ending?" A maid carrying a laundry basket over her head trying to keep the drip clean was walking past a security guard. Boom! Another tremor hit. She dropped the basket to save the clothes from spilling and desperately asked the guard, "Dude, seriously, what is that noise?" The guard frowned, waving his hand like it was nothing. He was totally dismissive, telling her, "Ain't worth your time, fam." He politely, but with a hint of irritation, told her to just keep it moving. But this lady wasn't having it. That answer was sus. She rushed up to him, demanding the tea, because these tremors were definitely registering on the Richter scale. Sweating a little, the guard finally spilled the beans. Young Master Yu Hyun is currently taking a walk. The maid's jaw dropped. She looked at him like he was crazy and said, "That is absolute cap. No way." But then thud. Another heavy tremor shook the ground. The guard sighed, defeated, and opened the gate. "See for yourself," he said. And there, in the middle of the courtyard, stood a massive, heavyweight young man in nothing but his pants, barely moving an inch. Every single step he took caused a mini earthquake and unleashed rivers of sweat. He tried to take another step, but his stamina bar was empty. It was a crushing defeat, and he face-planted into the dirt with a massive thud. Seeing his master down, the guard went into panic mode and rushed over. But instead of a thank you, he got blasted with rage. The young master had specifically ordered him not to interfere with his grind. The guard retreated awkwardly, knowing he messed up. The young man, summoning incredible willpower, forced himself back up, cursing his useless body. The tension was so high that his pants literally ripped, flashing his white underwear through the tear. Peak embarrassment, but look at his face. Despite the wardrobe malfunction, his eyes were burning with determination. He refused to take the L. He was putting titanic effort into every single agonizing step. Yu Hyun took a deep breath and clenched his fist. To regular people, these were just steps. But for him, this was a legendary feat of strength. Suddenly, a mosquito saw a free buffet on the giant man's neck. It landed, slurped a few drops of blood, and that tiny debuff was enough. The young man's HP hit 0, and he collapsed again, sending another shockwave through the ground. He was so done with his fate. He hated this body that broke down over a literal bug bite. It was like playing the game on nightmare difficulty with a glitched character. He watched his guard running over, screaming in panic, but his mind was focused on one thing. He had to overcome this nerf to save the Murim world. You see, this guy isn't just some random noble. His real name is Jyn Wigan, and he regressed to the past to rewrite history. It sounds crazy because everything looks peaceful now, right? But he knows the truth. Soon, the Murim world is going to be swallowed by chaos. A villain is coming to unite the dark sects and paint the entire central plane red with blood. In his past life, all the sects teamed up like the Avengers to defeat this unknown evil. But spoiler alert, they got clapped. Completely destroyed. Total party wipe. Honestly, the villain was kinda impressive. Uniting the Murim isn't something just anyone can do. But because of that chaos, Jin lost his parents and ended up all alone in a cruel world. He lived like a stray dog, wandering the streets and getting into fights just for the thrill of it. But his entire destiny changed the day he met his legendary mentors. The King of Swords, Namong Song, personally picked him up. At the time, Jin naively thought, "Sweet, my life is finally going to be easy." Boy, was he wrong. His training was straight-up torture disguised as education. Listen to this madness. The poor guy was tied upside down and tickled. Then they released a bunch of venomous, angry snakes at him while his only weapon was a torch. Talk about hardcore. They threw him into water with heavy stones tied to his legs. They threw real swords at him to teach him dodging. They left him freezing in the cold and then roasted him over a fire like a kebab. Why? Because these so-called teachers wanted Jin to stop the coming chaos. They did whatever they wanted, claiming he had to suffer because he was young. But hey, the results didn't lie. He built a legendary body. After surviving that hellish training arc, the boy mastered every martial art his teachers knew. Then the masters gave him the ultimate quest: find the Chaos Bringer and delete him from existence. They told him to find their younger selves and teach them, just like they taught him. That was the mission. That was the reason Jyn Wigan returned to the past. And he was hyped about it. He figured he'd crush the villain, then retire and live in luxury like a king. But fate is a cruel troll. Instead of his OP body, he woke up in this helpless vessel that can't even walk, let alone fight. Back in reality, his father, Yuan Xuan, was screaming at his friend, the imperial physician Chang Siono, demanding he fix his child right now. While the dad cried over his frail son, Jyn, now living as Yu Hyun, thought, I didn't survive hell training just to give up here. He has to survive no matter what. But his body betrayed him, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. His father panicked, asking, Son, are you okay? The doctor tried a treatment, but the dad grabbed him by the collar, screaming, You quack, my son is in pain. Do something. Meanwhile, Jyn was mentally plotting his comeback. Priority 1, lose this massive weight before the boss battle. Priority 2, grind martial arts like crazy. But the most critical mission, obtaining the pure ginseng before the villains get their hands on it. But it was hard to think with these two old men arguing right in front of him, the doctor explained. It's just blood stagnation. Jyn was mentally begging them to shut up so he could focus. The doctor yelled, Let the boy vomit the blood. It'll make him feel better, trust me. The dad threatened. If this doesn't work, I'm executing you. Jyn was trying to remember the timeline. Did the enemy get the ginseng 6 years ago? It's impossible to do math with this drama in the background. The doctor clapped back. We're supposed to be friends. Put some respect on my name. You should be thanking me for saving him, the doctor shouted. But the dad was too stressed to listen, grabbing the doctor again and threatening him, completely ignoring the vibe check. Jyn tried to calculate his remaining time and realized with horror he only has 6 months left. He snapped and screamed at the distraction. Shut up, you old farts. The room went instantly silent. The doctor stood there in shock at the rudeness. But the father, he rushed over and hugged his son. He was just happy his boy had finally come to his senses. Jyn quickly realized this crying old man hugging him like a puppy was his new dad. But in his joy, the old man was squeezing him so hard he was literally suffocating him. For some reason, the dad glared at the doctor, who was blushing even though he had assured him the boy would wake up. Suddenly, Jyn switched up his attitude and spoke respectfully to his father. The dad instantly turned into an angel, asking, What do you need, my son? Struggling to stand, Jyn said, I want to take a walk. The dad was absolutely floored. The loving father immediately went overboard. Get the 4-seater chair. Get the towels. 4 burly, muscular dudes entered the room carrying a luxurious set-in chair. These guys had biceps on their biceps which they needed to carry the heavy young master. Jyn was like, Bruh, seriously. He didn't consider being carried around as taking a walk. He politely declined, saying, I prefer to walk on my own. The father immediately called his servant, Huang Chan, to help Jyn stand and guide him to the door. The old man couldn't believe his eyes. His son was actually walking. Even the servant helping him didn't believe it until he felt the weight shift. Tears started streaming down his face. They hadn't seen Yu Hyun walk on his own in 10 years. Seeing how much his father coddled him, it's no wonder his new body ended up like this. But as he stepped outside, all the villagers watched in awe and delight. The transformation begins now. Fam, smash that like button if you've ever felt judged. The MC was shook by the crowd's reaction. He takes 4 steps and they act like it's a miracle. Nah, the real grind hasn't even started. If he doesn't unlock his old martial arts memory, every single NPC here is getting deleted. He went beast mode for half a month, walking till his legs gave out. But now, it's time for the ultimate weigh-in event. You won't believe the disrespect. They literally weighed him against livestock. Yu Hyun sat on one side, while Hang Chong drove a whole herd of pigs onto the other. Talk about a violation. The drama spiked when the rope holding the pigs snapped under the pressure. But our boy, he didn't budge an inch. Pure rage mode activated. All that cardio for nothing. He can't defeat the boss villain like this. Then, a massive realization hit him like a truck. The henchman wasn't a name, it was a title for the guy who wrecked the martial arts world. Panic started setting in. He couldn't remember the villain's face or his real name. His old masters used to spam this info in the chat until his ears bled. But now, total blank slate. The memory file was corrupted. Hun Chong saw his young master stressing out and, holding a piglet like a teddy bear, gently dropped the hard truth. Boss, burning fat is harder than a raid boss. The servant tried to be helpful, suggesting they nerf the sugar intake. Let's get you on that high-protein grind set, master. Just do cardio and lift for a year, and you'll be slim. A year? The MC wasn't listening to that nonsense. He was deep in his own tactical simulation. The new soul inside this body was trying to access the old memories. He knew the villain was heading to Ain province for the chase ginseng, so the play was to camp there and ambush him. Without that mystical power-up, the enemy would be weak. The MC started fantasizing about standing over the agent of chaos, mocking him like a total Chad. In his head, he was already the strongest warrior, bringing the opponent to his knees. But to Hyun Chong, the young master looked like he had finally lost his marbles and was about to become a corpse. The servant tried to wave his hand, but Yu Hyun was gone, totally zoned out, plotting how to destroy An Hoi's minions and save the server from chaos. Once the mission was done, he could retire in paradise. In his imagination, he had already solo-leveled, defeated the bad guys, and saved the girl. He started cackling like a maniac, celebrating a victory that hadn't happened yet. The poor servant hugged the pig for emotional support, thinking the diet had driven his master insane. The servant hit the sprint button, running at the speed of light to fetch the Imperial doctor before he got blamed for this mess. The MC didn't even notice him leave. He was too focused on the meta. 10 years to get fit? No way. The world ends way before that. He needed a cheat code, a glitch, something to change his body instantly. Suddenly, a dust cloud appeared. The servant was sprinting back with the Imperial physician, screaming the young master's name like a banshee. Yu Hyun locked eyes with Chang Seon. This wasn't just any doctor. This guy became the Imperial physician before level 30, outclassing every other healer in the game. By age 50, he invented his own medical techniques. To the MC, this guy was a walking loot box of solutions. The doctor apologized immediately, thinking the MC's exercise was just a symptom of madness. Yu Hyun ignored the apology and got straight to business. Yo, are you the top healer on the central server, or what? The doctor was confused but nodded. Then the MC dropped the quest request. I need a potion to delete this weight. I need to drop massive pounds in 1 month. Flat. The doctor was stunned. Wait, the young master was actually trying to lose weight? He thought he was just wandering around aimlessly. Looking deep into his eyes, Chang Seon got philosophical. Fam, the problem isn't your body, it's your heart. That rejection must have hit you different. He shook the MC's hand. I've got meds, but it's a slow burn. When the MC said he wanted it done in 6 months, the doctor laughed. Try 3 years, plus intense grinding at the gym. 3 years. The MC slapped him across the face. You fraud. The doctor admitted defeat. Okay, I was a fool to think normal methods would work on you. But he had a trump card up his sleeve. It's tough, but there is a way. The MC narrowed his eyes at the scammer doctor. All right, spill the tea. What's the strats? The next day, they rolled up to a massive waterfall. The plan? Use the water's buoyancy for gravity-defying training. The MC was hyped. Finally, a shortcut to the glow-up. He was ready to come here and grind every single day. But the servants who carried his heavy palanquin, they were laid out on the grass, absolutely wrecked. Every day, we're gonna die. They wondered what curse had befallen their master. Life was way better when he was a shut-in who never left his bed. They didn't sign up for this hardcore workout routine. The MC carefully stepped into the pond. Oh snap, I feel lighter. He kept wading in deeper, asking, should I keep going? This feels like magic. Suddenly drop off. The floor vanished beneath his feet. He went from wading to drowning in 0.1 seconds. Hyun Chong was on the bank smiling, thinking, look at him play. He's growing up so fast. Meanwhile, the MC was sinking like a rock, screaming bubbles at his idiot servants. The servant was just vibing, thinking, wow, he's got a talent for the Navy, totally missing the fact that his master was dying. Finally, a porter yelled out, yo, that's the drop zone. It's deep there. He's drowning. Only then did the servant realize the glitch in the matrix. He ran to the edge and covered his eyes in horror. The MC fell like an anchor, using up his last breath and blacking out from lack of oxygen. In his delirium, a flashback triggered. He was a spirit watching the original body's memories, a hut, a woman, and a baby. It was a memory unlock. That was baby Yu Hyun, only 2 years old. Damn, the MC thought. I used to be kinda cute back in the day. He realized the woman was his mother. But it was a horror scene. She was coughing up blood, desperate, whispering, my child must survive. The MC looked around for a savior, but the tragedy played out. The weakened mother held her child, tears falling, until her HP hit 0 and her soul faded away. The nightmare wasn't over. In reality, his massive adult body, weighing over 200 pounds, was slamming into the bottom of the lake. Back on land, Hyun Chong was stomping his feet and crying, I can't swim. I'm useless. Suddenly splash. A woman burst from the water, dragging the young master with her. Talk about a clutch play. She had arms of steel to haul his heavy frame to the surface. Hyun Chong gasped, wait, why are you solo? Where's the young mistress? She wiped the water from her face like a total boss. Lady Chen Ha said, save the big guy first. Now stop staring and help me. Comment W servant below for this absolute legend. Pops barely hesitated before diving in to save his boy. While he was frantically shaking the water out of Hyun, the entire squad hit the dirt, praying they wouldn't get wrecked by the boss's temper. The big boss demanded answers before handing out tickets to the afterlife. He was literally radiating heat like a volcano, and his minions were shaking in their boots. Sensing the Grim Reaper breathing down his neck, Hyun Chong instantly snitched on the dock. He claimed the swim was the doctor's bright idea. The The doc looked at him like, "Bro, I thought we were cool." Hun Chong doubled down, swearing he had zero to do with this mess. Daddy Yu's target lock shifted, and he screamed the doctor's name with enough force to shatter glass. The patriarch went full berserk mode, grabbing his sword to slice and dice. Meanwhile, the tall guard in the back was low-key grinning, finding this whole drama hilarious. The terrified doctor tried to talk sense into his old homie, but the boss wasn't hearing it. He just kept roaring about his precious son being in danger. The guard actually had to grab the boss to stop a murder. Right in the middle of this chaos, a total baddie walked in and announced her return like a queen. She dropped the bomb that Hyun was out cold. The guard holding the dad back was like, "Yo, zip it. You're making the angry Papa Bear even madder." Instead, she turned to the doc who had been treating the kid for 10 years for his take. Suddenly, Dad jumped up and started screaming accusations at the Namong clan. Turns out, our MC got rejected by that clan, and that's why he's in this mess. He was desperately trying to shed pounds to glow up, and the doc just gave him some tips. The patriarch grabbed his head as the truth hit him like a truck. He was so caught up in his own rage, he completely forgot about his son's broken heart. The sister stepped in with the save. She said if the kid wants to get fit, let him swim, just not in the dangerous stream. Problem solved. She flashed a dazzling smile. Meet Yu Jong Hai, the big sis. Later, while recovering, our MC couldn't help but think, seriously, nobody helped me in that water. He let out a heavy sigh as the pieces clicked together. Despite the drama, he realized the original owner of this body grew up without a mom. That explained why Pops is so obsessed. He already lost his wife, who he loved like crazy. Now he's terrified his son might disappear too. Our guy was furious at the original Hyun for letting himself go. He called him a loser because moving this body was a nightmare, zero muscle, stiff joints, just pure blubber. Suddenly, the door burst open. In walked the sister and the maid who had fished him out of the river. He almost asked, "Who dis?" before a headache slammed him with memories. That's his sister. He was shook by how gorgeous she was. Talk about winning the genetic lottery. The maid stepped up to help him out of bed. Hun tried to wave her off, thinking, "Girl, please." Even the buff guard struggled to lift me. But then boom, she hoisted him up like he weighed nothing. Our MC's jaw hit the floor as she casually said, "Let's roll, young master." One sunny day, they took Mr. Chunky for a ride. The porters were humming tunes and walking with a bounce in their step. Our boys sat there wondering, why is everyone so chipper? When they arrived, the MC shouted in shock. He demanded to know what the heck was going on. An army of workers was hauling rocks around a massive pit. Hyun waddled off his throne and asked the crew, "Yo, what's the project?" Seeing the size of the hole, he panicked, thinking they were digging him a giant grave. Just then, his sister rode in on a horse, looking like a total boss. She was hyped that the project was done so he would stay away from the river. The workers started flooding the pit, and it all made sense. It wasn't a grave, it was a private swimming pool. The workers crowded around, staring at the young master like an exhibit at the zoo because they had never seen him walk before. They started clapping and cheering. The MC thanked them, but felt super weird that they were celebrating him just standing there. He couldn't figure out why they were smiling. His dad definitely overworked them. Shouldn't they hate his guts? Instead, they were treating him like royalty. It was like they were brainwashed. Our guy figured Daddy Dearest must have dropped some serious gold to buy their loyalty. Huang Chong came charging in, yelling at the workers to scram. But he slammed on the brakes the second he saw the buff maid, Jong Hai. Dude was definitely crushing hard. He puffed out his chest, trying to look tough for his crush. The Sutton vibe switch left our MC totally confused. Chong announced the pool would be ready by noon. Hun seized the moment to ask, "So, what does my dad actually do?" The servant laughed. "Why do you want me to hype him up so bad?" He went into fanboy mode. The master is a legendary scholar, a symbol of truth. The MC had a flashback to his dad calling him Little Peanut and dancing around. He couldn't believe they were talking about the same guy. But apparently, during the famine, Papa Yu opened up the vaults and fed the whole neighborhood. The whole prefecture treats him like a hero. The MC tuned out the rest of the speech, thinking, okay, maybe the old man is cooler than I thought. He did the math. Rich dad plus community hero equals the ultimate easy life. He literally doesn't have to lift a finger to win. Realizing he hit the jackpot, he cut off the servant right as he was swearing eternal loyalty to the patriarch. Everyone stared at him like he was crazy, but he just burst out laughing. Finally, it was grind time. Hun hopped in his new pool to start training. When he popped back up, he asked Huang Chong for the goods. The servant struggled to lift a massive stone block with a chain. "You mean this beast?" He strapped that heavy weight to his leg. He knew he could chill, but there was a traitor lurking nearby who could ruin everything. He had to get strong, fast. Huang Chong chucked the stone into the water, dragging our boy straight to the bottom like an anchor. Here is the lore, guys. Energy pathways close up as you age, so you gotta start training when you're a baby. But this body is way past that. He couldn't even do the lotus pose because of the belly, so he stood on the bottom. Normally, fixing a body this bad would take 1,000 years of grinding. But our MC is a genius. He had a secret cheat code prepared just for a hopeless case like this, the Heart of Spiritual Energy technique. He drew in the power from 4 directions. Instead of the blocked energy core, he forced the power directly into his heart and blood vessels. The awakening starts now. Finally, the grind paid off. A satisfied smirk crossed his face. That sweet, sweet spiritual energy started flooding his core, replacing the weak energy he had before. Locking in, he synced his senses with the water's flow. Spinning like a human dynamo, he tested out his moves against the crushing pressure. Time to unleash the big guns, the Shaolin's 100-foot mystical fist. A move so OP it could shatter boulders from over 100 feet away. He started cycling through legendary skills while chanting ancient mantras. The 8 Drunken Immortals. Step. The Namong clan's infinite sword. He was going full try-hard mode. Meanwhile, Huang Chong was up on the mountain, literally dying of boredom, waiting for his boss. He never expected the young master to be this hardcore underwater. He figured the guy would quit after 3 days, tops. But nope, the dude had been grinding non-stop for a whole month. Strapping a boulder to his leg, Huang Chong thought he'd lost his mind. But now it was finally time for the moment of truth, the way in. He glared at those scales like they were his arch-nemesis. Huang Chong started loading straight-up pigs onto the other side. While the main character had been training like a beast possessed by a god, he stepped up, heart pounding, palms sweaty. If that fat didn't melt off, his entire comeback arc would be ruined right here. Everyone held their breath. The needle wobbled back and forth, teasing them. And then, bam, dead center. The straps didn't snap. We are in business, fam. A single, manly tear rolled down his cheek. He actually did it. Huang Chong couldn't handle the hype and tackled his young master with a hug. Caught up in the feels, the main character squeezed back and nearly crushed the poor guy's lungs. My bad, bro. Realizing his own strength, he jumped back. But the servant knew what was up. He was just happy his master was winning. With the pigs oinking a victory song in the background, they realized the struggle was over. No more ripping pants every time he sat down. Picking up the piglets, the servant laughed. The guys carrying your sedan chair are going to thank the heavens. Their backs are saved. But then Huang Chong got a little too loose with his lips. You know, people said you were adopted because you were so big. The main character gave him a look that said, shut it before I end you. But this guy didn't have a filter. He started rambling about how Hyun's fiancé dumped him just for being chubby. Oof. Emotional damage. The vibe instantly turned icy cold. Realizing he messed up, the servant panicked. Oh snap, the patriarch needs me. And he zoomed out of there faster than light. Left alone, the main character sighed. Sure, he had spirit energy and shed some pounds, but this body, it was still trash compared to his prime self. Normal internal energy takes years of boring training. But spirit energy? That's the cheat code. You just eat magical beasts and spiritual herbs to power level instantly. Without those rare resources, you're hard stuck at a low level forever, no matter how hard you grind. He needed that mystic herb his enemy's lackey found. But the timeline was tight. It appears on Mount Hao in 6 months, and he needed a power-up yesterday. He was literally daydreaming about eating spirit energy snacks. Suddenly, a doctor pulled up with a bowl. Your body must be wrecked from all that training, young master. He offered a medicinal tonic. The main character didn't even let him finish speaking. Asterisk yoink. Asterisk. He snatched the bowl and downed it in one massive gulp. I added a 15-year-old ginseng root. The doctor tried to explain, but the main character was already chugging it like it was Gatorade. The doctor awkwardly asked for the bowl back, but the boy was already in the zone, meditating to squeeze every drop of energy from that broth. It was a small boost, but it was better than nothing. A grin crept onto his face. His chaos core was finally waking up. He kept chugging potions and turned walking into a hardcore workout. He even tied up his silky hair. You know it's serious when the man bun comes out. Huang Chong was the ultimate hype man on the sidelines. Just like that, another month flew by. And yeah, our boy was back underwater, defying physics. He spammed his palm strikes until the pool turned into a whirlpool. Standing on the shore, Huang Chong watched the massive waves crash. No way. He shook his head in denial. There's no way his master the proud pig could pull off a god-tier move like that, right? Who are you calling a pig? A voice boomed from behind. The servant, having zero survival instincts, chirped. My young master, obviously. Big. Mistake. He spun around to see the patriarch, Lord Eong himself, standing there menacingly. Did you just insult my son? The patriarch went full protective dad mode. Aura exploding, he grabbed his sword to slice the former inspector in half. Luckily, a green-haired administrator stepped in to stop the murder. With a pitying smile, the admin saved the servant's neck. You look tired, friend. Go. Rest in the warehouse. The servant wept tears of joy for being spared. But the patriarch had already forgotten him. His eyes were glued to the water. Did you see that wave just now? At first, the admin didn't get what the hype was about. But seeing the father's face light up, he realized they were talking about the shockwave. The admin was skeptical, though. That weak kid used a technique? Doubt it. Sure, the dad was sad his son wasn't a nerd like him. But if the boy wanted to throw hands, he would support him to the ends of the earth. The admin got a bad feeling. What is this old fox planning? He didn't have to wait long. Bring me ink and paper. Now, the patriarch commanded. He was writing straight to the imperial court. Later, he called his son over and dropped a heavy book in his hands, the Guide to Divine Paradise. The main character looked at it, confused. Dad. What's this? Beaming like a lighthouse, the father dropped the bomb. It's a legendary martial arts manual gifted by the emperor himself. The main character stared at his dad. He knew the old man was smart, but this meant he was a VIP at the royal court. The father chuckled modestly. I just casually mentioned you liked fighting, and boom, they sent the best manual they had. Crazy, right? The admin rolled his eyes. Lies. Pure lies. You spammed the emperor with pity letters every single day until he gave up. He basically guilt-tripped the ruler of the nation. But wait, there's more. The dad had also hired a private tutor. And that master? It was the green-haired admin. Damn Jyn Woo. Also known as the main character's brother-in-law, family training arc incoming. The damn clan wasn't just some backyard dojo. They were the kings of the martial arts world in Hebei province. While Yang bragged about his elite bloodline, Hyun just let out a heavy sigh, stressing over his next move. Let's be real, the patriarch of the damn clan would be on his knees, begging times for lessons, not the other way around. There was zero chance this guy could teach him anything he didn't already master in a past life. For a split second, he considered dropping the bomb that he was actually the legendary Jyn Wigan reborn. But remembering how his dad went full rage mode on that doctor earlier, yeah, bad idea to trigger him again. Yong and Jong Woo fist bumped, totally misreading the sparkle in the boy's eyes. They thought he was hyped for training, but he was actually plotting to use damn Jong Woo as a cover story for his insanely rapid power growth. If anyone got suspicious about his god-tier moves later, he'd just shrug and say, oh, it's a secret technique from the Divine Paradise teachings. Flawless plan. Suddenly, the boy dropped to his knees, hitting his brother-in-law with a please accept this bow. Master, routine. Watching this, his dad literally bit his lip to stop the happy tears from flowing. His son was finally acting like a proper human being. Jong Woo let out an awkward laugh and told him to stand up, but oops. The kid's legs seized up with a massive cramp from moving too fast. Total buzzkill. The nightmare training began. The master screamed his lungs out, demanding the perfect stance. He kept sighing, wondering why this kid couldn't handle even the baby steps of martial arts. Even though Hyun was sweating buckets, the guy kept barking at him to repeat the moves, thinking he was actually being times 2 easy times on the boy. The second the young master tried to ask a question using brother-in-law, the guy snapped, yelling, I'm not family right now. Call me master. The boy corrected himself immediately. He didn't give a damn about titles. He just wanted to skip the tutorial and get to the advanced combos, insisting he needed the full picture to nail the technique. Jong Woo called him a straight-up fool, lecturing him that without a foundation, he was nothing. He basically told the kid, how are you going to learn anything when you're this dense? That ticked Hyun off. This guy really thought he was a genius just because the MC was playing along with his little game. After 10 days of playing nice, he decided the act was over. It was time to unleash the beast. Meanwhile, Jong Woo was still ranting about how this soft, spoiled kid thought the six-fist style was a joke. Even simple moves hold the universe's laws, the MC countered. Then, he dropped the bomb. If you don't believe me, let's throw hands right now using the six-fist technique. He challenged him to prove who was right, the guy obsessed with boring basics or the genius who understood the core principles. Jong Woo started chuckling, then burst into a maniacal laugh loud enough to scare the crows out of the trees. The idea of this weakling testing his strength was the funniest joke he'd heard all year. The young master casually picked his nose and asked, You scared, bro? Bullseye. Jong Woo's face turned red with rage. He bragged that before joining the Yu clan, he was a heavy hitter from the Seven Dragons clan of Hebei. Hyun kept poking the bear, saying, Hey, if it's too much for you, feel free to walk away. Hook, line, and sinker, the manipulation worked like a charm. His brother-in-law accepted the duel but got cocky. Claiming he was too strong to go all out, he sealed his inner energy and even tied one hand with a purple ribbon, giving the kid the first shot. Big mistake. Hyun smirked, no takebacks. He instantly launched the dragon bird's flight, his body accelerating as it was wrapped in a blazing blue spirit energy. Jong-woo stood there expecting a marshmallow punch, but his eyes popped open at the last second. He barely managed to dodge a strike that was way faster than anything he imagined. He was shook by how seamlessly the kid linked the 6-fist combinations. Even the MC had to admit the guy lived up to his reputation by dodging that first hit. But there was a problem. Hyun's spirit was strong, but his chubby, unconditioned body was a wreck. He couldn't drag this out. He had to end this fight while his legs could still hold him up. Delivering the finisher, the MC quipped, "Real heavyweights should act the part." He slammed his teacher into the dirt, leaving the guy stuttering in total shock. As Hyun wound up for another smack, Jong-woo cried out, "Brother-in-law." The MC coldly corrected him, "I'm not your brother-in-law right now. I'm your master." Meanwhile, at the front gate, Huang Chong was literally passing out from exhaustion. His rookie partner tried to send him on break, but the guy refused to disobey the patriarch's orders. Suddenly, a voice cut in, "You've been half asleep all day. Your security performance is looking pretty trash right now." Someone who knew about his demotion stepped out of the shadows, noting that this guard duty looked more like a vacation. It was the young master himself. He pointed out that for a punishment, Huang Chong was getting a lot of nap time. The guard blinked, stunned to see Hyun. There wasn't he supposed to be in training hell? The MC puffed out his chest and declared, "That guy isn't on my level to train me." He was pretty proud of his beatdown and wondered if his so-called master had woken up from his nap in the dirt yet. Oh, he was awake all right, lying in a hospital bed, groaning in agony with his whole body aching. His wife sat there, looking at him like he was crazy. "You really expect me to believe my sweet, fragile, chubby brother did this times to you?" Jong-woo gave up on explaining. He just whimpered and asked her to scratch his head because his arms were wrapped up like a mummy. But suddenly, she started jumping around cheering. "I knew it. I knew my brother was a martial arts prodigy." She totally ignored her husband, who was literally crying in pain, begging for a scratch. Jung-hai politely excused herself, leaving the broken man all alone, chirping, "You'll feel better after a nap, honey, savage." Jong-woo was officially done with this insane family treating that fat kid like a national treasure. Meanwhile, a high-ranking patriarch from a provincial family just rolled into the city. His servant racked his brain and concluded, "Master, we really shouldn't touch this mess." But the patriarch insisted he had to handle it personally. Since Mr. Yu had asked so nicely, he had no choice. He ordered his assistant, Choksan, to gear up for a trip to the remote beggar sect in the Api prefecture. Back to our MC, time had passed, and he'd shed some weight. Walking on his own 2 feet for the first time, he stepped out to see a world that was still beautiful, before the chaos era ruined everything. He stood on the sidelines, watching regular people gossiping and laughing, living their peaceful, oblivious lives. Little kids zoomed around, tripping over adults and enjoying a childhood free of fear. The boy couldn't help but smile. It was even better than he imagined in his past life. Smiles were extinct. He remembered when the minion of chaos took over. Shadows swallowed the light, laughter died, and there was no rest for the wicked. Joy, impossible when you're using corpses as tents to block the rain. Hyun recalled an old poem about the cold soaking your sleeves in winter. Back then, he had actually hoped they would just exile him far away to escape the nightmare. But now, he was here, and he had the power to save it all. Suddenly, the crowd spotted the young master. They swarmed him, asking, "Yo, why are you walking instead of riding in your fancy carriage?" A girl screamed at the top of her lungs, "Everyone, come look. It's a miracle. Young Master Yu Hyun is actually walking." The young master was getting seriously creeped out by all the NPC behavior around him. He felt like a rare animal in a zoo, with everyone staring. A kind lady stepped up, trying to slide him a bunch of sweet persimmons. Han eyed the snacks and felt his soul crying, but he had to refuse because the diet grind never stops. Then, another sweet old grandma tried to flex her new silk collection on him, offering to make him some drip. It turned into a full-blown fan meet. Everyone started dumping loot on the young master. We're talking expensive vases, random weapons, and even livestock. His inventory was filling up way too fast. He was overloaded. Hun started begging them to chill out. He yelled that he just came out to touch some grass, not to start a moving company. But then, he saw their genuine smiles. These people really loved him. His heart melted a little, and he couldn't help but crack a smile back. Suddenly, his inner voice, the system, started nagging him. Bro just wanted to live a peaceful, chill life. He got salty like a kid because if this fan club kept mobbing him, he'd never be able to walk down the street normally. But then, the vibe changed instantly. Hun felt a disturbance in the force. Even with the cheerful crowd hyping him up, his instincts screamed that someone was lurking in the shadows. He knew he'd been spotted, but he shook his head, thinking he was tripping. After all, he was just a chubby guy who could barely walk recently. Sensing high-level energy should be impossible for his current stats. While the stalker was distracted, Hun moved like a ghost. He slid up behind the guy, dropped a hand on his shoulder, and casually asked, "Yo, what's the deal?" The spy panicked and launched a surprise attack. Luckily, Hun's body reacted on autopilot. He blocked the strike, but he could feel the weight behind it. This guy was no amateur. The clash caused a huge scene. The alarm was raised, and the townspeople rushed over to check on their beloved young master. They found Hun passed out on the ground and immediately screamed for a medic. The attacker realized he messed up and booked it out of there. The mob realized this stranger was the reason their young master was down, and they started screaming to catch that guy. Suddenly, Hun snapped awake. He went full berserker mode, shouting and demanding to know where the enemy went. He was ready to delete that guy from existence. The crowd was shook, seeing the young master this angry. Hun quickly realized he was scaring the NPCs. He stood up, fixed his posture, and capped, saying he was totally fine, even though his body was screaming in pain. He wiped his face and stared in the direction the assassin fled. That attack wasn't random. The guy was a legit martial artist. But it didn't make sense. Why would a high-tier fighter be hiding in a noob zone like Amping Prefecture? This place was just one piece of the puzzle he had to save. Hun headed home with determination. He needed to level up his skills, fast. Passers-by watched him go, sensing a different aura. They whispered that the young master was actually built different, and the patriarch didn't need to worry about him anymore. He had basically speed-run the basics of spirit energy circulation. Now came a hard part, losing the weight and gathering intel. Hun figured if he wanted the tea on the Young Ginseng, he needed to hit up the beggar's sect. Meanwhile, back at the estate, the patriarch was having a deep talk with his daughter. She was dropping knowledge, saying books and fists go hand in hand. The dad was hyped, thinking his son had unlocked his genius genes and would become a legendary general. He was already plotting to get the boy a government job. But the sister, keeping it real, told her dad to pump the brakes. It was way too early to decide the kid's entire future. The dad tried to defend himself, saying he just wanted to boost his son since the kid clearly had martial arts talent. Classic helicopter parent vibes. Zhang Hai tried to explain that rushing is bad news, considering the boy just started walking again. Then she dropped a truth bomb, asking if he was acting crazy because of the Namong clan drama. She sighed, admitting that the clan might have rejected the marriage proposal because of Hun's reputation. But it could also be that Namong Hae just wasn't interested in romance at all. That girl wanted to be a solo martial arts god, not some housewife. Seeing her father's depressed face, Zhang Hai realized this went deeper than just a rejected proposal. The patriarch confessed that if he didn't secure this, he'd never forgive himself for what happened to Hun. The guilt was eating him alive. Even though his daughter told him mom's death wasn't his fault, the man couldn't let it go. He believed he was the target that day, and he was the one who should have been deleted. Meanwhile, two shady guys in a carriage were plotting. They were gossiping about how Yu Hun was supposedly lazy, overweight, and spent all day in bed. Total loser energy, according to the rumors. They heard he had a trash personality too. But that's exactly why they were there. As the carriage rolled up, they peeked out like creepers. Yu Hun was their target. They were following the art of war. Know your enemy, and you'll never take an L. One of the men was Hanu, the patriarch of the Namong clan himself. He wanted to scout the boy personally, so he could reject the marriage with zero regrets. Suddenly, Yu Hun let out a massive sneeze. Someone was definitely talking trash behind his back. The young master arrived at the slums, looking for the beggar's sect. He scanned the area, scaring a stray cat, but the place was empty. Where were all the hobos? This was the hood. It should be crawling with them. He was totally confused. Suddenly, a guy in ragged clothes walked up and asked what he was looking for. Hun played it cool, saying he was just vibing, but then asked straight up, "Yo, where are all the beggars at?" The man laughed, thinking it was a joke. Apparently, there hadn't been beggars in Anping for 20 years. And the reason? Hun's own dad. The patriarch was such a Chad, he built homes and gave jobs to all the homeless people. Hun realized his dad was suffering from success. He fixed poverty, but ruined the spy network. Hun remembered his master's lesson. Birds listen by day, rats by night. But regular animals are useless for intel. The real MVPs of information are beggars. They have eyes and ears everywhere, blending into the background like NPCs. Living in the shadows, they form the ultimate information highway, the beggar's sect. Hun face-palmed hard. If there were no beggars here, there was no branch. His plan was falling apart. The ragged man saw the boy panicking and realized this kid wasn't just a tourist. He actually knew about the secret underground world. Meanwhile, The Namong patriarch was sipping tea with a mysterious stranger. He knew a big shot like this wouldn't travel all this way just to hang out with a bum. He knew exactly what they wanted: dirt on Yu Hyun to destroy the marriage talks. The stranger was Oh Huan, the head of the local beggars sect branch. The beggar king knew the score. These rich guys wanted info to justify rejecting the Yu family proposal. This was standard business. But suddenly, Oh Huan apologized. He said he couldn't give them the tea on Yu Hyun. That info was locked behind a paywall. He needed permission from headquarters. The patriarch frowned, thinking the guy was just trying to hike up the price. But the beggar waved his hand. The higher-ups had classified Yu Hyun's file as heavenly status. A lackey standing nearby tried to talk trash, saying, "Why is the son of a random nerd getting top-tier protection?" But the beggar king silenced him with a single wave of his hand. "You don't question the system." Oh made it crystal clear, if the old fossil running the Yu clan decided to throw a tantrum, it wasn't just the branch family getting cooked, the main house would be in the danger zone too. Hansu knew money talks, so he slammed a heavy bag of gems onto the table like a boss. He stared the man down, basically saying, "Name your price, bro. I'm paying." The beggar just laughed in his face, acting like the guy was speaking gibberish. He leaned back, grinning, and insisted he needed that green light from the main branch, or no deal. That's when the Namgung patriarch decided to stop playing games. He pulled the ultimate flex, taking off his jade ring and slapping it on the table with a deadly serious look. The room went silent. That wasn't just jewelry. It was an imperial ring. Having that meant you were protected by the Namgung clan itself. His son was shook, screaming, "Dad, are you crazy? You're giving him times that asterisk." Meanwhile, outside, Yu Hyun pulled up to the beggar's sect HQ. He looked at the fancy architecture and nodded. No wonder he couldn't find it earlier. This place looked way too bougie for a homeless shelter. RMC was about to stroll in like he owned the place, but the bouncer at the door wasn't having it. He pointed his sword right at Hyun's face, calling him fatty and telling him to get lost because VIPs were talking inside. Hyun was instantly triggered. This random NPC was disrespecting him, calling him names. The audacity was off the charts considering they had never even met before. But he forced himself to chill. He wasn't just a nobody anymore. He was the young master of the Yu family. So, he put on his best fake smile and politely asked the guard to lower the weapon before things got messy. The guard didn't take the hint. He swung his arm, telling Hyun to clean the wax out of his ears and scramble. He crossed the line, calling our boy a pig and telling him to leave before he got embarrassed. That was the last straw. Hyun's eyes went cold. He calmly told the guard that the only one getting embarrassed and spitting blood would be him. Hyun turned around, grinning like a predator who just spotted a juicy steak. At the exact same time inside, his dad arrived at the old tiger's room, getting the red carpet treatment. Back inside, the beggar was staring at the ring, totally stunned. He couldn't wrap his head around it. Why would anyone drop such a legendary item just to stop a marriage? Was the hate really that deep? But Hansu was in full negotiation mode. He didn't just offer the ring. He was ready to pile on even more loot to seal the deal. The beggar realized he had hit the jackpot. He took a sip of tea to hide his excitement and agreed. He slid over a secret notebook containing every single detail about Yu Hyun's life, right up to yesterday's drama. Before handing it over, the beggar gripped the book tight. He looked Hansu in the eye and warned him, "If anyone finds out I gave you this, we're both done for." Hansu snatched the book, swearing on his clan's honor to keep his mouth shut. The beggar left him to enjoy his light reading and went off to mail the headquarters about his massive payday. But just as Hansu opened page 1, his son heard a commotion outside. Being nosy, he walked to the window to check the street and saw something totally unexpected. The fatty was throwing hands with the security guard. The guard just took a nasty hit to the face, realizing too late that he had underestimated the big guy's speed. The guard had to admit the kid had moves. Hyun had dodged the endless sky sword without even using inner energy. But Hyun just laughed, mocking the fact that such a lame swing was named Endless Sky. That insult hit different. Disrespecting the clan's martial arts, that was a violation of the highest order in the Murim world. Hyun wasn't done roasting him. He explained he wasn't dissing the technique, which was S tier, he was dissing the user. You could swing that sword for 1,000,000 years. Hyun scoffed, and you'd still be trash at it. Hyun gave him an out, telling him to just give up. He knew this guard was a Namgung lackey, so he offered a rare mercy. "Apologize now, and I might let you keep your teeth." The guard snapped. His pride was shattered, so he lunged at Hyun, screaming about how dare a fat tongue insult his noble clan. The blade stopped a millimeter from Hyun's neck. "No more warnings," the guard hissed. But Han had already clocked him. The Namgung clan drew first blood. Hyun vanished, dodging the slash and slamming a fist into the guy's solar plexus. The impact was brutal. The sword went flying, and our MC grabbed the guard by his hair. "I told you to move," Hyun whispered. "You should have listened." Asterisk smack. Asterisk. He slapped the disrespect right out of the guard's face. He knocked the scumbag to the ground and kept the combo going. A crowd started gathering, hyping up the street fight. If your clan didn't teach you manners, Hyun shouted between slaps, I guess I have to be your teacher. He called it an educational beating, and honestly, the guy deserved it. Suddenly, times boom, asterisk. A new challenger approached. Hyun had to backflip away as the furious son of the Namgung patriarch came flying in like a human missile. Seeing this guy triggered some major deja vu for Hyun. But there was no time for nostalgia. He had to deal with the explosive lightning fist coming right for his face. His current body was too weak to tank that hit, but his brain was full of cheat codes. He knew exactly how the mechanics of the lightning fist worked, spinning energy to boost impact. Hyun caught the fist with both palms and spun the energy in reverse, nullifying the momentum. High above, Hansu peeked out the window, wondering what all the noise was about. He looked down just in time to see the clash. His son was shocked. He literally felt the power of his punch vanish into thin air. Hyun looked at the attacker's intense face and froze. The memories hit him like a truck. This wasn't just some random enemy. This guy was his sadistic master from his past life. Flashbacks flooded his mind. He remembered the grueling training, the master sitting in the shade while Hyun swung his sword 30,000 times on a plank in the river. He remembered collapsing after 30,000 swings, body broken. But the teacher didn't care. Your form was sloppy, he'd said coldly. Do 10,000 more. Day and night, it was torture disguised as training. No matter how hard Hyun tried back then, he could never land a single hit on this monster. He remembered rubbing his head after another failure, complaining that using a sword like a club was stupid. He instantly regretted it when the master gave him that terrifying death stare. But then, the man had smiled. That anger, he'd said, that's what you need to master the 7 essences. The guy literally got high on watching his students suffer and grow. But those words didn't comfort Hyun back then, and they sure didn't now. He watched the fist coming and thought, okay, master. Time to see if the student can teach times you times a lesson. But he got too lost in the memories. He lost focus for a split second, and the punch connected. Hyun's vision went blurry, the world spinning into a mess of shapes and noises. The Namgung air pushed him back but was totally confused. He felt his attack get weakened. He knew it happened, but he couldn't figure out how times this random guy did it. It defied all logic. Meanwhile, Hyun shook the cobwebs out of his head. Remembering his master's mockery fueled his rage. It was time to destroy this younger version of his tormentor. The air was crackling with tension, ready for round 2. But suddenly, the crowd swarmed in, blocking the view. The Namgung air was confused. What were they doing? Then, asterisk thud. Asterisk. The situation flipped instantly. Our MC had collapsed. The crowd started screaming for a doctor as Hyun passed out cold. The beggar master finished scrawling the letter and bounced, hitting the streets with a chaotic grin as he headed straight for the head of the Enamong clan. The vibe switched instantly. The man froze like a deer in headlights seeing Yu Hyun laid out flat, while the crowd trembled because Hyun's father looked ready to burn the whole city to the ground in a fit of rage. The doctor rushed in, sweating bullets, and while checking the pulse he muttered, asking what kind of heartless monster could inflict such damage on a young master. Every single pair of eyes locked onto the culprit with burning hatred. The son of the Hans family was public enemy number 1. The guy was shaking in his boots, looking at his dad while sweating profusely, thinking he was absolutely cooked. But his father just laughed, ripped up the notebook, and said the intel was useless now, and that marriage, yeah, that was definitely cancelled. Yusang caught wind of the drama and pulled up to the shelter, screaming, totally blaming the beggar sect for this mess like a Karen. The Namgun family stood there looking guilty as sin before the Yu clan patriarch, while Oh Hyun was practically kissing the floor, swearing his sect was innocent and blaming the kid who was pointing fingers. Hanu tried to cap, making excuses that his son only attacked because he didn't know it was Yu Hyun, but the patriarch wasn't having it since when his swinging a blade at innocent people acceptable behavior. The father raged, warning that if the boy wasn't his future son-in-law, his head would be rolling on the floor right now. The beggar used his secret sound transmission, warning Hanu to drop to his knees immediately if he wanted to live. Even though he was nervous, the man hesitated, wondering if he should really bow down. But then Oh Hyun dropped the bomb. Mr. Yu was about to call the Imperial Palace Guards and make this a national emergency. The beggar looked at him like he was stupid, reminding him he was standing in front of a former Imperial commander, a legend respected even by the current emperor. Jun-woo had to physically restrain his father-in-law from throwing hands. When the dad shouted he was going to the emperor, Hanu finally realized he was screwed, dropped to his knees, and started begging for mercy, promising it would never happen again. Now you had 2 grown men crying on the floor for forgiveness. And honestly, the Lord looked at them like they were annoying mosquitoes. Yuang shouted with fury, asking if they realized his only son, the apple of his eye, was on death's door. But suddenly, the door creaked open and Yu Hyun strolled out looking totally fine, asking, "What's with all the noise?" The dad's face lit up like Christmas morning, seeing his son alive. But the son-in-law was confused. Han's hair was tied in these adorable twin buns, making all the passing girls blush and whisper to each other. To them, Hyun looked absolutely adorable with that hairstyle, and they wanted him to keep it forever. The dad finally calmed down, asking his son gently if he was actually okay. The beggar master looked up, saw the boy, and sprinted over. He checked him from all sides like an overprotective mom, asking about internal injuries with panic in his voice. He started hyping up Hyun's amazing agility for softening the blow, acting like a fanboy. But Hyun just gave him a blank stare, totally ghosted him, and kept walking past the man. Savage. He walked straight up to Hanu, bowed respectfully, and apologized for the late greeting, calling him Big Brother. The man scratched his head, completely confused by this sudden switch in attitude. Because of their messed up family tree, they were technically cousins. Hyun ignored the drama and asked why his father was talking about going to the palace. Isong pointed a shaky finger at the Namgun clan, declaring he was going to snitch to the emperor about these savages and their trash behavior. Hyun shook his head like a wise sage, saying the emperor was too busy running the country to deal with this drama. The dad's expression changed instantly, realizing he might have been doing too much. But then, he shot a glare at Hanu's son that was pure nightmare fuel, saying he might chill on the emperor, but he would never forgive the guy who hit Hyen. The young man sighed, walked up to his attacker, and asked if he was the son. The guy was clueless. Meanwhile, Hyen smiled and introduced himself, dropping the fact that even though the guy was older, Hyen was technically his uncle. On the inside, he was grinning like a villain. He had been waiting for this exact moment, meeting his cruel future master back when he was just a punk kid. He grabbed the guy's cheek and pinched it hard, treating him like a toddler while emphasizing his status as uncle. He was thrilled to meet the future Sword King, Namung's son, in this life. In the future, this guy becomes one of the 6 Orthodox saints and a legendary teacher. But in Hyun's memories, he used his sword like a baseball bat to beat the living daylights out of Hyun, while he begged for mercy. He remembered how the master would pause, smile sweetly, call his name, and then whack. He'd scold the boy for dropping his sword, screaming that a martial artist never lets go of their weapon. In a real death match, "Are you gonna drop your weapon and cry?" the master would taunt. "Are you gonna beg the enemy for mercy?" That sadistic smile haunted his nightmares forever. But suddenly, Hyun snapped back to reality when the Namung's son swatted his hand away, yelling at him to back off. The young man froze. His mind knew better, but his body remembered the trauma. He flinched, missing a chance to strike because his instincts were screaming danger. Hyun was so frustrated he almost cried, imagining how he would pay that master back 100 times over. Later, the whole awkward family and the beggar sat down for dinner. You could cut the tension with a knife until Hyun broke the silence, asking what brought his big brother here. Juan started sweating buckets. He didn't know what to say without angering Mr. Yu. If he told the truth, the dad would flip a table. But the young man saved the day with a sly question. "Did you guys come to talk about the wedding?" Then he dropped the mic. "I cannot accept the Namong family's proposal." While his inner voice was screaming that he didn't want to marry into this mess, he politely asked his father to respect his wishes. He turned to his cousin with a fake sad face, saying he assumed the guy was disappointed, but unfortunately, it is what it is. "Forced marriages are so last century," he argued. "Even if I'm stuck here in Amping, I can't just sit like a frog in a well waiting for life to happen. I need to help the emperor. I need to protect the next generation. We're talking about the future of our state, people." He claimed he wanted to learn how the world works and improve himself. Then he dropped the bomb. "To do that, I've decided to join the Murim world." His dad stood up so fast his chair flew back. "Murim? That's nonsense. That place is full of beggars, thugs, and bandits." He pointed right at the Namung family like, case in point. The relatives looked at each other, definitely feeling a little salty about being compared to bandits and hooligans. Hyun pulled out the manipulation tactics, asking, "Dad, do you think Brother Chongun is a thug too? He's in Murim. Masters go there to study, not just to fight." He turned to his big brother again, pressuring him. "I'm sure the Namong family agrees, right?" Hyun had played his cards perfectly. All that was left was for them to agree. Honestly, Hyun should be thanking them. Their stupidity just got him out of a marriage he never wanted. The young man cleared his throat, acting all innocent, and asked his older brother to listen to his foolish request. The man tried to come up with an excuse, but his brain was fried. Hyun had won. Hyun took their silence as a green light and decided to bounce. But right before he dipped, he hit the branch manager with that signature smile. "Yo, oh hun, slide through with me for a sec." The dude shot up like a rocket to serve his boss, but Hyun just wrapped an arm around him like they were day one homies, leaning in to whisper that they needed some private chat time. As soon as they stepped out, the vibe got super awkward. To break the ice, Oh Hun started hyping up the MC's hairstyle like a total fanboy. But here's the tea: while he was waking up earlier, something weird went down. He ignored all the glazing about his hair. Frankly, the sweet talk was getting kinda cringe and overwhelming. The beggar tried to keep the compliments coming, but our boy shut that down real quick to talk business. The guy was shook. Why was this rich kid so obsessed with the Murim world and martial arts masters? Oh Hun figured it was just newbie excitement. But inside, Hyun was plotting on his old teachers, ready to clap back and mock them exactly like they used to mock him. He called it training, but it was really payback prep. Snapping out of his revenge fantasy, he asked the real question: is the Murim world still split into demonic, orthodox, and unorthodox clans? The guy shrugged it off, saying everyone's just trying to survive out here. But the MC knew that was cap. Chaos was coming, and the servant of chaos was about to unite them all in the worst way possible. That intel just confirmed it. He had zero time to slack off. He needed to absorb spirit energy as soon as possible and get his stats up. Only then could he wreck his enemies. Plus, he had a little side quest in mind, recruiting his first student. The next day, Hyun hit the reservoir to grind XP like a maniac. Huang Chong begged him to chill, terrified the young master would pass out again. Hyun whipped around and pressed him. Bro, are you worried about me? Or just scared you'll get fired if I drop? The guard started mumbling under his breath, nervously ranting about how cold-hearted the young master was being. Totally caught in 4K. Suddenly, Big Sis pulled up. Lady John Hae scolded Hyun for going too hard. The second Huang Chong saw her. He blushed and puffed his chest out like a total simp. She grilled the guard on why he let this happen, and he started making lame excuses again. Her voice got shaky as she asked her brother, "Do you even remember how savage the Murim world is?" The MC knew the vibes were heavy. Their mom died because of Murim beef. They usually kept quiet to avoid the drama, but silence doesn't heal trauma, fam. Keeping quiet wasn't the play anymore. He looked her dead in the eye and asked, "Why are you so terrified? Do I really look that weak and unreliable to you?" She was shook by his real talk. Flashing a confident smile, he dropped a promise. "Nothing bad is ever going to touch the Yu clan again. I'm gatekeeping this family's safety." Jong Hae smiled, realizing her baby bro wasn't a baby anymore. She pinched his cheek and admitted, "Guess it's time I accepted you've leveled up." Hyun felt kinda awkward with the affection. In his past life, his family got wiped out when he was just a kid, so this warm family energy was new territory. But this new body came with a loving family squad. He kept grinding on his training, shedding the fat until his physique was looking absolutely god tier. Huang Chong shadowed him everywhere, terrified the young master would trip. And while Hyun looked drip in his clothes, underneath, he still had to deal with the loose skin from his rapid weight loss. At dinner, he dropped the news. He was heading to Anhai. His dad immediately vetoed it, claiming his son was too skinny and would probably snap like a twig if he fell. Hyun tried to use the "I want to see the snow" excuse he heard from Oh Hun. His dad raged, furious that some random beggar was putting ideas in his son's head. Oops. He accidentally let slip that he planned to crash with the Namgung family. His dad looked at him like, "Excuse me, why them?" The real reason was to train his cousin, but he couldn't say that. So he spun a story about family bonding and fixing the beef from the last time they hung out. His dad wasn't buying it, remembering the drama they caused last time. But Hyun slammed his cup down with main character energy. "It's already decided, Dad." He promised to return in one piece so the old man wouldn't stress. Then, without waiting for a rebuttal, he walked out like, "Thanks for agreeing, bye." The patriarch realized he couldn't stop the boy's resolve. While his dad panicked, Hyun went to his room to pack his inventory for the trip. He was hype. To stay incognito, he crafted a mask out of bandages. Now he could roam the world freely under his original name, Jyn Wigan. But the moment he opened his door, brew. An entire army of soldiers and medical stretchers was waiting. So much for his stealth mission. Huang Chong was beaming with excitement. Hyun pointed at the crowd, confused. "What is this circus?" Turns out, it was his protection detail for the trip. Hyun was like, "Why do I need a squad?" Then the guard dropped the bomb. The patriarch himself was tagging along too. He imagined his overprotective dad hovering over him the whole time. Nope, Hyun waved his hands frantically, trying to delete that mental image. This family road trip was gonna ruin everything. He needed to find the 1,000-year ginseng and destroy the servant of chaos. He couldn't do that with his dad watching his every move. If he told the truth, his dad would lock him up for safety. Hyun knew he had to keep his cover blown. He couldn't be exposed. First step, ditch the leech. Huang Chong. Suddenly, he remembered a special potion in his stash. A wicked smile crept across his face under the bandages. Time for Plan B. Playing it cool, he suggested they rest and leave tomorrow instead. Huang Chong was confused why delay the hype. No rush, fam, Hyun said. Then he hit him with a curveball. Let's have a drink. We never bonded, and you've always had my back. Chong was practically crying tears of joy, totally clueless. Hyun grabbed the reins, sat him down, and insisted they pour one out. As the guard drunkenly complained about his hard work, Hyun pretended to care. Meanwhile, his sister was rushing over. Her maid tried to warn her, but she didn't want to disturb the bonding. She knew he had a lot on his plate, but hearing the rumors about his trip, she just had to see him one last time. Jong Hae reminisced about how her maid used to style Hyun's hair. She stood tall and asked, "Who does he look like now?" The maid smirked. "He's as pretty as a young lady, of course." Standing outside, she heard the loud, drunken debates coming from the room. Jong Hae smiled, deciding to go in alone, and told her maid to take 5. But the loyal maid wasn't having it. She insisted on waiting. When Jong Hae tried to send her to bed, the maid got offended. "Do I look like a tired old grandma to you?" Finally, dead of night, Hyun grabbed his loot and slipped out of the house like a ninja, checking his corners to make sure the coast was clear. Freedom. Finally, Hyun glanced down at Huang Chong. The dude was passed out cold on the floor, literally fighting invisible enemies in the void with his fists while he snored. Flashback time. His drunken brain was getting wrecked by old memories. Back when he was an inspector, some shady guy tried to bribe him with a special poison that completely dissolves internal energy. Basically, he's totally nerfed until morning. Hyun used to look like a zombie because of his drastic weight loss. To fix his skin, he had to grind through treatments, mixing healing mud with bandages just to look human again. That's when his old doctor slipped him that exact energy-blocking poison. It was supposed to be a panic button, just in case the boy ran into an enemy way above his level. It was meant to buy him time, but right now, it came in clutch for a totally different reason. As he slipped out of the house, he just hoped the guy would understand. He was doing this for the Murim world. But just as he hit the exit, busted, his sister was standing there in the yard, looking all sad and clutching her obviously pregnant belly. Hyun froze. He just took out the guard, so he was totally panicked. But suddenly, his sister rushed over and hugged him tight, begging him to stay safe and come back as soon as possible. She told him their dad would always be waiting, no matter how tough things got. With that emotional goodbye done, Hyun headed to the stable to find his new ride. His sister wasn't lying. This beast was a lightning-fast horse gifted by the Emperor himself. You could tell it was special just by those glowing, electric blue eyes. He never imagined he'd actually get to ride this legendary mount. Taking one last look at his family estate under the moonlight, he launched into the night. This horse was basically a Ferrari. By the time the sun came up, the young man was already looking down from the mountains at the Namong clan's territory. The horse neighed happily, and Hyun gave it a pat on the neck for being the MVP. He pulled up to a tavern near the forest and ordered a feast for the whole squad. He slammed a massive silver boat on the table like a boss. He told the owner to round up every ginseng gatherer and hunter who knew these mountains like the back of their hand. Meanwhile, some mercenaries reported to an old gray-haired dude that they found the pure ginseng. That guy didn't waste a second and ordered his troops to move out immediately. Back at the tavern, the owner worked fast. A bunch of locals showed up, but they were eyeing Hyun like he was totally sus, asking what he was doing in their village. The vibe was getting tense, and people started whispering that he might be a bandit. Hyun almost blew his cover and said he was from the Wu clan. To save the run, he quickly lied and said he was working for the clan in a different region, introducing himself as Jyn Wigan. Smooth save. He dropped some lore, claiming he was searching for something for a VIP. He asked about a legendary stone in the mountains that glows with a crimson light. Judging by their blank faces, these NPCs had zero clue what he was talking about. Even Hyun used to think the crimson stone was just a myth, but he pressed one old guy who looked like he knew something. The dude wasn't sure about crimson, but he knew about a red stone. He saw it way back when he got lost in the mountains as a kid. He said the thing glowed like the sun and shot a pillar of light into the sky. Hyun got hyped and demanded the location. The old man scratched his beard and dropped the bomb. It's deep in the mountains at Pagoda Peak. Suddenly, the whole room went silent with fear. Another guy started shaking, telling Hyun to forget it. That place is strictly off-limits because of the Nine Dragons Fortress. We're talking about a hardcore bandit gang that's been terrorizing the area for generations. Rumor has it, some of them are actual martial arts masters. Hyun ignored the danger warnings. He was actually stoked. A bandit lair was the perfect hiding spot because no normal person would ever dare to look there. He grabbed the old man's hand and begged him to lead the way. The old guy tried to talk some sense into him, but Hyun wasn't taking no for an answer. He needed a guide. as soon as possible. The old man looked into Hyun's clear gray eyes and realized the kid was dead serious. This wasn't a game to him. Finally, the man, named Exu, agreed to take him to a lookout point. The other villagers thought he was crazy, but Exu had one condition. The boy had to promise they'd retreat if things got sketchy. Hyun agreed instantly, totally grateful. They didn't waste time and headed straight for the spot. To go any further, they had to cross a river. It wasn't wide, but it was incredibly deep and dark. Exu told him they needed to go back and get a boat, but the young man ignored the logic and just asked where the stone was. Exu pointed it out, saying he'd see the glow at sunset. So, Hyun just stood there and waited. Exu took a nap under a tree while Hyun kept watch like a hawk. As soon as the sun dipped behind the rocks, a faint red glow appeared in the gorge. The old man started panicking about the dark, telling him they needed to leave, but the boy handed him a valuable treasure as a tip, signaling that the partnership was over. He didn't want to drag the old man into a death trap. There were bandits ahead, and things were about to get violent. Exu tried to refuse the payment, but the young man just bowed and thanked him. Then, to the old man's horror, Hyun dove straight off the cliff into the freezing river. Swimming across a river in winter is suicide for normal people, but our main character moved like a fish. He crossed it easily and infiltrated the perimeter of the Nine Dragons fortress. He crept up and overheard two goons talking about selling people they captured at the border. Human trafficking? Seriously. It pissed him off knowing these monsters were raiding villages, but he had to stay focused. He had bigger fish to fry right now. His mission was the Pure Ginseng. He activated his spiritual radar to scan the area. If the treasure was within 10 yards, he'd feel it. But mid-scan, he sensed something nasty. He saw a bandit dragging a woman out of a house by her hair, screaming insults at her. The thug threw her into the dirt and started kicking her. Hyun almost jumped out to wreck him, but he froze. A crying child was standing right there, and the bandit turned to the kid with a sick smile. The woman grabbed the bandit's leg with trembling hands, screaming that he wasn't even human anymore. The guy just turned back and kept beating her, laughing about testing how long she could survive. Hyun's blood was boiling. He wanted to smash the guy for raising a hand against women and kids, but he was stuck. His masters told him strictly, "Do not interfere until you have your power back." Even if it's a matter of justice, he had to ignore the cruelty to save the entire Murim world later. But the rage was too much. He cursed his masters in his head, gripping the grass until his knuckles turned white. He promised himself he would only hold back this one time. As soon as he secured the legendary chase ginseng, he was ready to dip. But first, it was time to wreck every piece of trash standing in his way. Summoning his grit, our boy turned to leave, trying to ignore the crying child and the brutal sounds of the beating. But suddenly, his conscience, the voice of his past life, hit him up like, "Yo, are you seriously just gonna walk away?" He couldn't do it. He couldn't ignore this level of evil. What was the point of saving the Murim world if he let scumbags like this run wild? No cap, he had to intervene. He looked back, eyes burning with justice. It was better to burn the whole villain clan down than let this nightmare continue. The bad guy slapped the mom and reached his gross hand toward the crying little girl. But before he could even touch her, POW, a fist connected with his face, leaving a bloody imprint. RMC looked at his sleeve and sighed, "Bro, you got blood on my expensive drip. Seriously." The little girl's eyes went wide. She whispered, "Are you a hero?" But our guy just shrugged it off with main character energy. "Nah, kid. Just passing through." The mother was shaking from the cold and the fear, clutching her child tight. She stammered, Who are you?" Hyun reached out a hand, but she flinched, terrified. He didn't take it personally. He just placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We don't have time for intros," he said. "Get up. Where's the rest of your squad?" "In the hut," she pointed. Right on cue, another bandit walked out. Asterisk whack. Asterisk Hyun knocked him out cold instantly. "Ladies, get inside before you get spotted. Move." He dragged the unconscious bodies inside, complaining, "Man, why are these NPCs so heavy?" Inside, a group of terrified hostages stared at him like he was the Grim Reaper. Then he realized bloody hands, bandages, dragging bodies. Yeah, he looked super sus. "Chill out, guys," he said. "I'm here to bust you out." The mom stepped up. "He's legit," she confirmed. Hyun waved a hand coolly. "I promise to get you out of this hellhole, and I don't break promises." One captive whispered, "Are you with the government?" Hyun ignored the question. "How many enemies?" "About 50, they said. 50 against one? That's a serious raid boss scenario. And worse, there might be a martial arts master among them." The captives looked hopeful. "Is the army waiting outside?" "Nope, just me," Hyun admitted. "I'll buy you time to escape, but the rest is on you." Internally, he was face-palming. Why did he have to play the hero today? Panic started to spread. We're all gonna die, but the mom he saved stood tall. Hyun smirked. She had that leader aura. Listen to her, he thought. Suddenly, another bandit walked in to yell at the slaves. He froze, seeing his homies knocked out on the floor. Rage exploded in his eyes. But he didn't stay mad for long. Asterisk. Snap. Asterisk Hyun twisted his neck with his secret martial arts technique before the guy could even scream. Night-night. Our boy peeked outside. There was a guard on the wooden tower, rubbing his eyes, fighting off sleep. Total NPC behavior. But then times whoosh asterisk. A streak of blue energy tore through the air like a lightning bolt. Hyun moved so fast, physics couldn't even keep up. The guard barely had time to squint. Before the guard could process what he was seeing times boom asterisk, Hyun delivered a devastating blow to the tower's base. The whole structure groaned and collapsed. With one final scream, the guard plummeted into the abyss. The hostages saw the tower fall and knew that was the signal. It was go time. The brave mom shouted, "Run," and the people sprinted toward freedom. Meanwhile, Hyun decided to turn up the heat literally. He set the main building on fire. Let the chaos begin. In the barracks, the rest of the bandits were snoring away. But the smell of smoke woke one guy up. Yo, is something burning? Fire. The alarm went off. The bandits woke up in a panic. The first guy tried to run out to play firefighter. Asterisk kaboom asterisk. An explosion blasted him right back into the room. Through the smoke, they saw a figure standing in the doorway with a torch. "Who are you?" they screamed. Hyun laughed at the dumb question. "Who am I?" "I'm the guy roasting you right now." Total savage moment. "Get him," the bandits roared. "Don't let him escape." They passed the word. "It's the bandage guy. He's solo. Jump him." Hyun did the math. Fighting 50 angry dudes at once? That's a bit much, even for him. Individually, they were trash, but together, they were a problem. He cursed his low stats. If only I had absorbed that energy earlier. Suddenly, an old bandit rushed him, trying to take his head off. Hyun dodged smooth as butter and slammed an elbow into the guy's gut. Looks like he had no choice but to throw hands. Instead of a brawl, he used his movement techniques to kite them. He needed to set a trap. Meanwhile, 2 guards at the village gate were standing there like statues. Asterisk clatter, asterisk, a stone landed at their feet. They turned around and finally noticed the massive inferno behind them. Boss? I think we're under attack." Realizing the intruders slipped past them, they sprinted back to the fire like bullets, terrified of their boss's wrath. This cleared the path for the hostages. The woman clutched her baby, looked back one last time, and whispered a silent thank you to the mysterious hero. "Survive," she prayed. Hyun was running on fumes, almost zero energy left. He tried to retreat, but times swipe asterisk. A massive dude in tiger skin swung nunchucks at his head. This guy was fast. Hyun blocked but got sent flying back. The attacker, a huge bald tank of a man, grinned. "Who's the little rat?" His crew surrounded Hyun, mocking him. "Look at those bandages. You hiding an ugly face under there, freak?" Hyun scanned the circle. These weren't basic thugs. They had martial arts training. "You here alone, kid?" The bald guy laughed. Dozens of spears pointed at him. Hyun clicked his tongue in annoyance. He crossed his arms, chin up, and bluffed hard. "I don't need backup for weaklings like you." He looked confident, but inside, he was praying to every god out there. Please let them be scared. Please let them run away. The bald man sighed, disappointed. All this noise for one kid. Hound realized his intimidation check failed. He was in deep trouble. Suddenly, the boss screamed at his minions. "Why are you standing there? The base is burning down. You idiots. Put out the fire." The bald man stepped forward, aura flaring. "I am Gwakosen, head of the 9 Dragons Fortress. Remember the name before you die." Hyun smirked, hiding his pain. "You want me to introduce myself now?" But unexpectedly, the boss laughed. "I like your guts, kid. How about you work for me?" For Hun, this offer was straight up insanity. But if Gwakosen wanted to stall for time, Hun was more than happy to play along with the charade. He dropped into a lotus position right then and there, leaving the bandits completely shook. With a smirk, he asked if this was his official job offer. But while he acted cool, he was secretly gathering every scrap of spiritual energy he could find from the air. Gwakosen tried to butter him up, claiming that real talent was harder to find than diamonds. He called the kid brave and strong qualities that definitely deserved a fat reward. Hun kept up the act, pretending to weigh his options. But the bandit leader scoffed, pointing out the boy had zero internal energy. Trying to impress them with no power, totally pointless. He laid it out one last time, join the crew, become a boss on equal footing, and they would pretend this whole messy incident never even happened. A clean slate. Unlike their boss, the minions weren't having it. They were thirsty for blood, begging to end this disrespectful brat or at least break a few of his limbs. Finally, Hun broke the silence with a single word: wonderful. Guakosin naively thought he had scored a new recruit. Big mistake. Hun felt his energy return, stood tall, and dropped a bomb. Since when does a majestic wolf bow down to a mutt? That insult hit hard. The bandit leader exploded, veins popping out of his face as he screamed at the absolute freak standing before him. Hun dropped into a fighting stance, challenging the boss to a 1 versus 1. But Guakosin was just salty that he had to waste time ordering his goons to beat the living daylights out of this kid. The goons didn't need to be told twice. They rushed him instantly. Hun just rolled his eyes, attacking one guy en masse. What a bunch of cowards. Bam! The first strike sliced right through Hun's bandages, revealing the wrinkled, aged face underneath. He cursed the leader for hiding behind his lackeys like a rat. The roasting session began immediately. The bandits laughed, realizing their young opponent looked like a grandpa in disguise. But Hun clapped back with that youthful arrogance. He told them that unlike their ugly mugs, he at least looked like a human being. That one stung, and the bandits attacked with renewed fury. He didn't have the power to clash head-on, so he tried to dodge and weave. But fighting a whole squad solo, he had absolutely zero time to breathe. Crash! A heavy blow finally connected, sending Hun flying several meters across the dirt. Guakosin had to admit the kid lasted way longer than expected for someone with no internal energy. Hun wiped the blood from his chin. He was running on fumes before, but now, his tank was completely empty. He realized too late that he had underestimated these warriors. Trying to save people while powerless, a rookie mistake. But there was no point in pity parties now. Even as his legs trembled, he forced himself back up. He couldn't die here. Not before claiming the virgin Jyn Sang. With a heavy sigh, he ditched the regret and switched his mindset to pure survival mode. Guakosin sneered at the sight. He thought the kid was brave, but it turns out he was just an idiot. Useless trash needed to be taken out, so he gave the order to destroy him. Hun scraped together the last of his energy, focusing it all into his legs to lock down his center of gravity. Suddenly, his body became weightless, flowing like a stream of water. He danced through the crowd, scattering the scoundrels. Witness the 8 drunken eternal steps. Even in his weakened state, his moves left the bandits and their boss completely stunned. And this was just the warm-up. He moved with such blinding speed that no one could touch him. The ultimate technique of hyper-relaxation. He lunged at Guakosin for a fatal strike, but with his power depleted, the hit barely left a scratch on the bandit leader. Realizing he couldn't win, he slipped past them and dove straight into the abyss, but not before sticking his tongue out at the losers one last time. He knew the ravine was too deep for them to follow. Falling through the air, he flipped them the double bird. "I'll be back for your heads." Guakosin could only scream into the void as the boy vanished. The minions stood there, jaws on the floor. The boss was fuming, ordering them to find the body immediately. He wanted to skin that kid alive just to calm his nerves. Suddenly, a panicked lackey ran up. "Report," the leader barked. The bandit stammered that the prisoner hold was empty, just 2 charred corpses left behind. Guakosin put the pieces together instantly. That cocky brat wasn't just stalling. He was a decoy to let the prisoners escape right under their noses. Skinning him wasn't enough anymore. He ordered a total lockdown of Mount Hyan. Meanwhile, Hun was hurtling toward the ground, with only 1 shot to survive the landing. There was a pond below, but at this terminal velocity, hitting the water would be like hitting concrete. He had to angle this perfectly. He braced for impact. But instead of crashing, he halted mid-water. But things got worse. He was caught in a violent whirlpool, spinning out of control. Fighting it was useless. He had to trust the flow. He waited for the perfect split second and launched himself out of the deadly spiral. Breaking the surface, he gasped for sweet oxygen, spitting out river water. Exhausted, he just floated there, letting the current carry him. He just wanted to nap and forget about all those ginseng roots. But suddenly, a jolt went through him. His spiritual energy was vibrating like crazy. The glow from his chest was a compass. It was pulling him toward the pure ginseng nearby. Hun dragged himself onto the shore of a strange, hidden grotto. He survived the waterfall, but where was he? Then he saw it. A radiant plant with a delicate bud. No doubt about it, the chaste ginseng. His master said he'd know it when he saw it. He should have asked for a manual. But whatever, it was right there. He scrambled over and started digging like a maniac. He grabbed the stem and pulled. As the root emerged from the earth, the name made perfect sense. It looked exactly like a newborn baby. Holding the legendary treasure, he was overwhelmed, shaking his head in disbelief. He hugged the root to his cheek, grinning like a total idiot. The minion of Chaos's plan was finally over. He checked his 6 coasts clear and whispered a quick prayer of thanks. Just chomping on it would be rude. This required respect. With trembling hands, he sliced off the first piece of the divine root. Cool leaves, spicy ginger kick, and a wave of refreshing sweetness. Pure spiritual energy exploded in his mouth. He couldn't stop bite after bite. He devoured the whole thing. The ginseng's power surged through his veins. He stood up, radiating an aura of dominance. "You better watch your back, Hua-kosen." Feeling the strength return, he announced to the world, "The useless boy from Huan Prefecture is gone. The master has returned." Meanwhile, his loyal servant Huang Chong had reached the village, searching desperately for his young lord. The shopkeeper described Hun perfectly, but the servant insisted he was looking for Jyn Wigan. Poor guy was clutching his swollen cheek. Looks like the clan patriarch gave him a harsh parting gift. The servant was absolutely clueless about where the young master had vanished to. But while Hang Chong was knocked out cold after chugging way too much magic juice with the boss's son, Patriarch Young kicked the door down like he owned the place. Before the poor guy could even wipe the drool off his face, he caught a furious boot straight to the grill. The patriarch was screaming his lungs out, ready to end this man's whole career just for daring to take a nap on the job. The boss threatened to bury him 6 feet under so he could sleep forever. Jun Woo tried to de-escalate the situation like a good son-in-law, but the moment the patriarch spotted those empty liquor bottles behind the servant, his rage meter hit critical levels. Through the haze of a massive hangover, Hang Chong started having flashbacks of the young master pouring him drinks with a mischievous grin, basically setting him up for disaster. Then the reality hit him like a truck. He had been played like a fiddle, and Mr. Yu's fury wasn't going to spare him, even with the doctor and the son-in-law trying to hold the old beast back. Suddenly, the stress was too much, and Young just collapsed. "Doctor," Chang Shan panicked, frantically searching for a pulse on the arm. But when he couldn't feel anything, he screamed that it was game over for the master. But psych, the old man woke up instantly, bonked the doctor on the head for spreading fake news, and chased everyone out. Terrified, Hang Chong scrambled away to go find the missing young master before he actually got buried. Just then, he overheard a random kid yapping about a horse with weird eyes that was being super picky about its food. Apparently, this kid had raided every village nearby just to find fruit for the bougie animal. Hang Chong trailed the kid and totally freaked him out by sprinting up and screaming for his young master. The servant was running around like a headless chicken, completely forgetting that he was the one who abandoned his boss in the middle of nowhere. Finally, losing his patience, he grabbed the kid by the shoulders, tears streaming down his face, begging to know where this mysterious horse came from. The kid spilled the tea, saying the animal's owner went straight to Pagoda Peak, the exact spot where the Nine Dragons Fortress is. The adults tried to stop him, but the young master insisted he was on a treasure hunt or something. Hang Chong screamed loud enough to wake the dead, terrifying the poor kid. He realized his master had walked right into the den of mountain bandits. His imagination went wild with nightmares of the boy being tied up and used as a punching bag. With the info secured, Huang Chong took off, screaming to save his master. But then he hit the brakes, spun around, ran back to the boy, tripped over a rock, and tumbled across the ground like a bowling ball. He had totally forgotten to ask for directions. Lifting his head while blood gushed from his nose, he desperately asked where Pagoda Peak actually was. Meanwhile, the captives who managed to break free were creeping through the snowy forest, heart rates spiking. Suddenly, a branch snapped, and they all froze. There was a shadowy figure lurking behind a tree. When he stepped out, it was just Exu, the absolute MVP, who was helping them find the shortcut to the village. Talk about a relief. The mom thanked him from the bottom of her heart, and the old man asked if they'd seen a bandaged boy. Just as she turned to answer, a massive bolt of blue lightning tore through the sky, signaling that something epic was about to go down. Back at the waterfall, the squad Guak sent to find the body was coming up empty. The deputy was there, listening to excuses about how the current might have washed the corpse away. Their boss was going to absolutely lose it if they came back empty-handed. The deputy ordered them to split up 5 guys down the river, the rest scanning the area. Failure was not an option. Just as the group was about to bail, one of the goons spotted something wild and yelled for everyone to look back at the water. A young man was casually walking out of the waterfall like a main character. He was muttering to himself, saying if the plan had gone even slightly wrong, he would have been toast. The deputy stared, jaw on the floor, having zero clue who this guy was. The boy's face was hidden by long, wet hair, giving off serious horror movie vibes. He sarcastically asked if they were a welcoming committee, which was perfect since he was coming for them anyway. The bandits just stood there blinking, totally confused. Then, the guy swept his hair back to reveal a face that was absolute perfection, asking with pure sass if he was the target they were hunting for. Thanks to the legendary Chase Ginseng, his body had completely leveled up, shedding all that extra skin. The bandits didn't even recognize him. Hyen just laughed, knowing his glow-up was too powerful for their tiny brains to comprehend. He was done playing games and straight up ordered the men to strip because he was feeling chilly. The audacity. The robbers got salty, thinking this pretty boy needed a beating for running his mouth. The young man didn't even flinch, asking calmly if they were going to drop the gear or if he had to get physical. Before we see him wreck these guys, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more Manhwa madness. The deputy couldn't handle the disrespect and tried to teach him a lesson, but before he could even land a touch, he caught a devastating kick to the jaw. His minions watched in horror as their boss got launched into the water instantly. The young man stripped the unconscious boss, inspected the clothes, and complained that he got wet during the fight. Talk about suffering from success. When he turned his gaze to the other men, they started shaking in their boots. It was terrifying. This guy looked like a divine god, but was staring at them like prey, asking who was next on the donation list. Everyone started frantically stripping, terrified of ending up like their boss. To make matters worse, the young man confiscated their weapon, which turned out to be way heavier than it looked. Suddenly, he swung the heavy blade and clean decapitated the closest guy. While the robbers stared at their fallen comrade in shock, the young man just smiled and asked why they were just standing there like NPCs. Hyun didn't care about their cooperation. He was planning to delete their existence from the server anyway. The robbers were shivering from cold and pure terror, begging for their lives. But the young man flashed a dazzling smile and said nope, promising to take every single one of their heads. One bandit stuttered, asking who he made that promise to. Swinging his sword for the next strike, the young man dropped the hardest line ever. I made that promise to myself. Panic mode activated. The men scattered like roaches, but it was useless. Without even moving his feet, he sliced down every single person who tried to run. Absolute massacre. With eyes like a predator, he dashed forward, declaring it was hunting season because these bandits were animals, not humans. When he was done, he wiped the blood off his face, annoyed that his fresh outfit was already ruined. He crouched by the river to wash up and froze. He didn't even recognize his own reflection. The Chase Ginseng had completely reconstructed his face into a masterpiece. Now it made sense why nobody knew who he was. His skin was flawless. Admiring his own beauty, he called the previous owner of the body a total idiot for letting such potential go to waste. But hey, high risk, high reward. He thought about his gorgeous sister and realized that with this new face, the rumors about him being adopted would finally die out. Genetics confirmed. His narcissism session was rudely interrupted by a flock of birds taking flight in panic. Distant screaming echoed through the woods. The bandits had caught up to the escaping slaves. One of the scumbags was already whipping Exu for helping them escape. While the captives were tied up again, the bandit beat the old man, demanding to know if he was working with the unknown killer. The old man tried to shield his face, denying everything. But the beatings didn't stop. They weren't interested in the truth. They just wanted to hurt someone. Just as the villain raised his hand for another strike, he froze. In the distance, he spotted his servant Votude standing there, and his brain short-circuited, trying to figure out why he was there. The young man bent down, and the bandits thought he was just playing in the snow. They had zero clue that he was charging up an attack. The boy was literally making a snowball. And then, answering their confusion with violence, he let it fly. The snowball whizzed past one guy and smashed the other directly in the face with the force of a cannonball, dropping him instantly. The bully watching his crew drop like flies was shook. He could only stare in horror as his homies got folded one by one. With only one scrub left standing, Hyun screamed, "Strike!" The hype was real. He grabbed his halberd from the snow and launched himself 8 meters into the sky like a gravity-defying beast, flying straight at the robbers. While these NPCs were still glitching out in confusion, someone yelled for them to scatter, but fam. It was way too late for that. Hyun landed like a meteor next to a fresh corpse, unleashing a shockwave that sent the bewildered bandits flying. It was a massacre. The young master decapitated everyone in range, his weapon conjuring energy that sliced through the very clouds and moonlight. Hyun smirked, pointed his blade at the last survivor, and asked, "You scared yet, bro?" Dropping a major truth bomb, he revealed this was the secret sword technique of the Wuan clan. The bandit trembled, asking for a name. With a heavy sigh, Hyun asked, "How could you forget the guy you clowns mocked earlier?" But suddenly, the sounds of suffering pulled Hyun out of his battle trance. An old man was groaning in the snow, while the captives tried desperately to help him. The young master instantly recognized him. It was Old Man X, the guide who promised to show him the peak. Instantly, the smile vanished from the boy's face, replaced by pure darkness. Rage fueled his aura like gasoline on a fire. He turned cold and demanded, "Who did this?" The bandit on the ground started stuttering, trying to cap and say he hadn't even touched him. But Hyun wasn't having any of that noise. He swung his weapon once clean cut and the guy was sliced in half. As he approached the old man, the captives started begging for mercy in unison. "Chill. I'm not with those losers," Hyun reassured them. gently lifting the old man and checking his status. The old man could barely open his eyes, but even without seeing clearly, he recognized that legendary silhouette. With a stern but gentle voice, Hyun reminded him about their deal. Then, Hyun decided to act. He let his internal energy flow out, channeling his own chi to heal the old man's wounds. It wasn't a full reset, but it stabilized his HP enough for first aid. Job done for now, the young master looked around and asked, "Who's got the strength to carry him?" 3 volunteers stepped up and carefully lifted the old man onto their backs. Hyun gave them strict instructions: walk forward, slow and steady, and whatever you do, don't look back. They could walk peacefully now because Hyun was about to become the rear guard from hell. He announced he was about to unleash the wrath of the gods on these beasts. To seal the vow, he snapped his halberd and fashioned a sword from the wreckage. Meanwhile, 2 guards at the bandit village entrance heard thunder crackling. They were confused lightning in the middle of winter, but fam, that wasn't weather. Something crashed down in front of them. It was Yu Hack, and the moment the smoke cleared, he deleted the guards instantly. Standing in the middle of the street, he screamed the boss's name, Jiwako-san, at the top of his lungs. But instead of the boss, a mob of minions rushed out. Now, internal energy usually has a limit, but spiritual energy, that stuff is built different. It carried the power of life itself. It pierced through defenses and destroyed everything in its path. Hyun was ready to use this overpowered ability to make sure Guak never caused trouble again. After dropping another attacker, he warned the rest that they were next on the menu. In a blink, the young master wiped out dozens of enemies. The survivors just froze, trembling in their boots. Hyun smiled, smelling the fear in the air. These guys were no longer a threat, they were prey. Suddenly, arrows rained down from the sky, but the young master dodged them with god-tier reflexes. Finally, the main villain Guako-sen showed up with his archer squad, ordering his goons to back off. They gladly obeyed, surrounding the boy from a safe distance like cowards. The young master just laughed. "Glad you finally showed up. I was wondering where you were hiding while your boys were dropping like flies." He started roasting the leader, saying it looked like he got scared and hired cheap hunters for protection. Hyun shook his head. This resistance was pointless. The ending was already scripted. "This won't save you from the Reaper," he warned. The bandits started shaking at his words. Hyun advised them to give up and was mid-swing when a familiar voice yelled, "Stop." It was Hang Chong. He strolled in with a small squad of soldiers and gave the order, "Eliminate every single bandit, no survivors." A chaotic brawl broke out, and Hang jumped straight into the mix. He noted that his skills were actually pretty fire, worthy of a leader in the Yu clan. Guako-san, panicking, screamed at his minions to stop the invasion at all costs. But the leader himself, he turned tail and ran so fast his heels caught fire, leaving his subordinates to get slaughtered in his place. Hyun wasn't going to let that slide. He chased him down and caught him at the gate. "Where you running to? You're already dead." Guak spun around, confused. "Why are you chasing me?" Hyun laughed. "You seriously don't recognize me?" The young master smirked and threw up the middle finger, the exact same gesture he made the night he jumped off the cliff. Instantly, Sosin's brain clicked. He knew exactly who this monster was, but he was bewildered. The kid's face was completely different. Han mentioned something about a mystical plant giving him a glow-up, but didn't bother explaining because, let's be real, this guy wouldn't understand. The bandit boss started trembling violently. He realized he was facing a martial arts grandmaster and had zero chance of winning. He did the only logical thing, dropped to his knees and begged for his life. Hyun just laughed at how pathetic he looked. The man promised everything, money, women, you name it, just to keep his head attached to his neck. But the young master told him to shut his trap. "Did you spare anyone who begged you?" he asked cold-bloodedly. "You robbed innocents, kidnapped women and children, and abused them. Did anything ever stop you?" Hyun asked. That's when the bandit realized there was no talking his way out of this one. He was cooked. Hyun raised his sword high. "There is no forgiveness here. I'm passing sentence in the name of the heavens." He told the man his only option was to accept his fate with dignity. Asterisk, slash, asterisk, with one swift motion, the young master took his head. Looking at the scumbag's body, he only thought about the grief this monster caused. Suddenly, Huang Chong approached, cautiously asking, "You good, kid?" He didn't even recognize his own young master. He noted that this ruthless warrior was clearly furious at the bandits and had some serious skills for his age. Hyun smiled, about to give a cheerful reply, but Hang cut him off. He was super worried about finding his young master and asked Hyun if he'd seen him. Not realizing who he was talking to, Huang started describing the boy, but he was roasting him, calling him stupid, stubborn, and mannerless. He even added that the kid eats like a cow and is totally rude. Behind Hyun's polite smile was a burning desire to bury this man alive right here and now. As soon as the young master revealed his identity, Huang switched up fast. He started glazing him, saying, "Oh wow, you got so handsome. I recognize you instantly." This just annoyed Hyun more because he remembered the trash talk from 5 seconds ago. The warriors of the Yu family were stunned by the young master's power. Even they struggled with the Nine Dragons bandits. But this kid soloed the fortress. And yeah, his methods were a bit brutal, but nobody was going to snitch on him for taking out the trash. Huang Chong said the head of the Heavenly Squad came personally to fetch him because his dad was worried sick. He tried to guilt-trip him, hinting that the young master knew how scary his dad could be. But Ham refused to return just yet. He had to catch the person coming for the ginseng first. The mission wasn't over. Suddenly, the old man's face lit up like he just won the lottery. The former inspector grabbed a rope, eyes wild, ready to relive his glory days and catch this criminal himself. Hun realized the script had flipped. He was the villain now. He backed up, warning Huang Chong to chill out, or else he'd have to stop holding back and unleash the beast. But Gramps wasn't hearing it. The young master bolted, but that nimble old geezer snatched his leg instantly. He wasn't just some random old head. He used to be the chief inspector of intelligence. He yanked the rope hard, but our boy didn't flinch. Instead of running, the young master decided to throw hands, his fist colliding right with Huang Chong's palm in a clash of energy. The backup warriors were absolutely shook. This kid was trading blows with the legendary destroyer like it was nothing. But as the fight dragged on, it became clear the student had actually surpassed the master. Hun unleashed a combo of rapid-fire strikes, blasting the old man back dozens of yards. But just when he thought he had the W, boom! A sneak attack from behind tied his legs up tight. Looking back, he saw one of the warriors apologizing while tying him up. He claimed he was just following orders, but Hun called it a dirty move. The guard just shrugged, saying it was pure loyalty to the clan. There was no backing down now. The guards flared their spiritual energy, preparing to jump the young master all at once. But the battle was cut short. Old man Exu hobbled onto the scene with his cane and his son. He bowed low to Higan, terrified he'd missed the chance to thank his savior. Our MC smiled awkwardly, acting like it was no big deal. The son poured his heart out, thanking the boy for saving his dad. And honestly, those words hit Hun right in the feels. It felt weirdly nice. He tried to brush it off, but Exu insisted. He chased down the Heavenly Squad just to give the young master a personal shout-out. He said all the hostages were infinitely grateful. Hun panicked for a second, asking with wide eyes if everyone actually made it out alive. They thanked him for stomping the bandits and saving their entire bloodline. Hun stood there frozen, watching the happy family walk back to the village. A strange warmth flooded his chest. It felt like weakness, and he wondered if he burned too much spiritual energy. But nah, that's just called having a heart, bro. Snap back to reality. His dad's loyal goons wrapped him up like a burrito and tossed him in the carriage. Hun screamed the whole way home, claiming the future of the Murim world was in his hands. The guard just nodded along, telling him to worry about the Yu family's peace instead. Hun chewed on the ropes in pure rage. These guys just didn't get the big picture. He planned to ghost Huang Chong until the Servant of Chaos showed up. But the guard got sick of the yapping, hit a pressure point on his neck, and sent our boy straight to dreamland. Hun passed out cold, mumbling about the danger to Murim, a big mistake, and the dreaded Servant of Chaos. Even in his sleep, the grind doesn't stop. One of the warriors couldn't believe it. How did a kid with such a baby face solo an entire bandit squad? The math wasn't mathing. Suddenly, Huang ordered a cover-up. Do not mention the young master in the report. The warrior was confused. That's major clout he's throwing away. But that was the point. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. The warrior laughed, realizing guard Huang was just being a protective helicopter parent. They decided to keep it low-key. Since the young master used the alias Jyn Wigan, they'd let the world gossip about that mystery man instead. Huang Chong checked on the sleeping MC, relieved he was safe. Meanwhile, the bandit chief arrived at the spot where the legendary ginseng used to grow, and he was livid. The precious ginseng meant for the young master was gone. His rage shook the ground like an earthquake, and his aura spread like poison while his minions begged for mercy. When he finally cooled down, he called for Manhwa. The subordinate was gasping for air from the master's crushing pressure, but answered instantly. The chief screamed that a thief had raided them. The situation at the Golden Palace was a mess, so he had to rush back, leaving the dirty work to Manhwa. The orders were absolutely terrifying. If the thief swallowed the plant, slice his stomach open and dig it out. Kill his family, kill his friends, wipe out anyone who's ever even looked at him. Talk about toxic behavior. Later, Hyun woke up, salty that he missed his chance to end the chaos accomplice right then and there. He could have been living that retired billionaire life in luxury by now. Huang Chong smiled. We're here, young master. But Hun just yelled at him for ruining the plan and missing the opportunity. The The guard ignored the tantrum. He explained that Hun's dad missed him so much, they moved the estate to Anhui. Hun sighed. At least the scoundrels lost the ginseng, so it wasn't a total loss. Mission 1 was complete. He secured the pure ginseng. He'd get another shot at the villain when he came for the second spiritual creature, the 1,000-year-old shell. While he was plotting, they rolled into the massive city of Hefei. The guard teased him, betting it was the biggest city the country bumpkin had ever seen. Hefei was the capital, and for a kid raised on a secluded mountain slope engulfed in chaos, this was a whole new world. He'd only ever seen training dojos and magical formations. Now, he was seeing the real deal, a bustling metropolis with actual infrastructure. They passed the commercial district, and the boy's eyes went wide. Merchants, exotic goods he'd never seen. The city was absolutely popping. Lights everywhere, people hyped for the night market, fresh silk drops, it was lit. Huang Chong promised to untie him, but only if he didn't try to dash. "I'm not a toddler," Hun grumbled. Being tied up was killing his vibe. They arrived at the Namong family palace, marked with an arrogant sign, Imperial Court. That audacity was typical for this clan. Hun stepped up with a confident smile, only to get a sword pointed straight at his throat. "Halt." He almost rolled his eyes into the back of his skull. Not this again. But Yong stepped in from behind and told the guards to stand down immediately. Hun looked at his dad and thought, wow, he looks so worried and loving. He decided to play the good son role and went in for a hug. Psych. His dad walked right past him. He started screaming at Huang Chong, accusing him of lying about bringing his son home. He shook the poor guard by the collar, yelling, "Where is he? How can this skinny pretty boy bandit be my son?" While old man Yu was raging, the boy tried one more time. Dad." Hearing the voice, the father froze, recognized his boy, and tackled him with a suffocating bear hug of love. Later at dinner, the truth finally came out. The Heavenly Squad spilled the tea. It wasn't some mystery hero named Jyn Wigan. Young Lord Yu had soloed those bandits all by himself. Changong was absolutely tripping because he knew exactly what his cousin used to look like back in the day. The guard was like, "Nah fam, no mistake here." Trying to drag that kid back was a literal nightmare. But Hansu wasn't having it. He started roasting the squad leader right in front of everyone, claiming they were just sloppy and making weak excuses. The warrior tried to defend his honor, claiming they held back on the fatal moves, but Pops shut that noise down real quick, calling him short-sighted. He wasn't about to let anyone diss his son. The kid was a total glow-up king, an uncut diamond with god-tier potential. Hating on him now was just straight-up jealousy, and the family head wasn't afraid to call out that narrow-minded behavior. The boss stood up and laid down the law. "I'm picking his wifey, so zip it and stay out of my business." Later, Hanyang and Changong were chilling at the table, but our main character was bored out of his mind. His legs were numb and the vibes were dead. Suddenly, Pop slammed his drink down and dropped a bomb. "Go take the state military exam, son." Talk about a buzzkill. But surprisingly, Uncle Hanu stepped up to the plate to defend our boy. He argued that the military was too strict. Even with legendary talent, the highest rank the boy could sniff was general. Hyun watched him with narrow eyes. Uncle had an angle, claiming a private teacher could make the boy the savior of the state instead of just a soldier. Yusin's eyes lit up immediately. Fame and glory for his son. He was totally down and asked where to find this legendary sensei. Uncle Chang Sion, the Sword King himself, flashed a grin and pointed at his own chest. Why look far when the goat is right here? He wasn't dumb. A martial arts genius who soloed a bandit gang. That is every master's wet dream. The Namong family wasn't just some random crew. They were heavy hitters in the Murim world with serious street cred. Using their name would be a massive cheat code for his career. Plus, it was the perfect excuse to get away from his clingy family. Only one boss left to beat his dad. But looking at those sparkles in his eyes, the deal was practically sealed. Chong Xiang grabbed his brother's hand, acting like he just won the lottery, swearing to treat Hun like his own flesh and blood. Yuzin had been stressing about the Emperor's drama, but knowing his bro had Hyun's back took a huge weight off his shoulders. The Emperor was worried about the throne, wanting the Yu clan to stay tight with the heir to secure the future. But with the old man losing steam, the flattery game started strong. Chang Xian buttered him up about the Emperor's trust. Hun was basically asleep with his eyes open, listening to these boomers. Finally, his dad left, sobbing like a baby and telling him to train hard. He kept nagging, "Don't skip meals. Write me 2 times a week. Tell me if you miss my cooking." Hyun just smiled through the pain. The whip cracked, the wheels rolled, and our boy finally let out a massive sigh of relief as the carriage pulled away. The old men waved goodbye with so much lovey-dovey energy it almost made Hyun puke. But hey, the smile on his face was real. He appreciated the love, but the second the carriage vanished, Uncle Sion's vibe switched to full demon instructor mode. Hyun thought they'd start sparring, but Uncle took him on a city tour. Everyone bowed down like he was absolute royalty. They reached a guarded building, and Uncle barked at him to climb the fortress as the sun went down. Suddenly, the old man defied gravity. He flew up several meters using the legendary step of the Great Void. Even Hyun's old master couldn't flex like that. The man landed on the roof and looked down, waiting for the boy to follow. Hyun paused. This was the Sword King. If he used his signature moves, his cover would be blown instantly. He couldn't risk being linked to that scoundrel Kaban. So, he improvised, crouching down and launching himself with pure physical power. Uncle laughed, impressed by his insane body control. Hyun played it humble, bowing like a good little nephew. From the roof, Chong Seong gestured at the city lights. Hey kid, did you check out the roads on the way here? Hyun started sweating. Was this a test? A trap? He quickly calculated they had passed exactly 64 spots. He apologized for being slow, but Uncle cut him off. See all that? That is Namang turf, baby. The boy blinked, processing the info. Then Chang pointed at a gazebo way off in the distance. He dropped a bombshell. Everything from here to the horizon, the city, the land, the air, all ours. The man grinned, flexing his insane wealth. Hyun just stood there, wondering what the heck the point of this flex was. Our main character froze with a dumb look on his face. Did the old man want him to run laps around the property or what? The Sword King chuckled as Hyun got into a running stance. You still don't get it, do you? Hyun tried to dash, but an invisible force grabbed his leg. He face-planted onto the roof like a confused ostrich. Defeated by the riddle, Hyun looked up. Uncle, please, just speak plain English to your dumb nephew. With a sly grin, he dropped the ultimate plot twist. Once you marry my daughter, I'm giving you a slice of this treasure as a dowry. Our MC literally had to clamp his mouth shut to keep from roasting everyone. The second he realized why they dragged him here, he knew he walked straight into a trap. That scary elder vibe, gone instantly. Hun was left totally speechless by the switch-up, but honestly, what did he expect from a geezer trying this hard to hustle him? The old man was grinning like a Cheshire cat, promising to work out a spicy deal, but our boy wasn't having any of it. He didn't even listen, he just straight up yeeted himself off the roof. He wasn't about to listen to any marriage nonsense. But the geezer chased him down with a demonic smile, shouting, if that's not enough, I'll double the offer. Suddenly, our martial arts genius got a flashback of this crazy old man from his past life. The uncle blocked his path, trying to sell him on the granddaughter again, promising all the Namgung family treasures would be part of the dowry. Hun cut him off cold. He made it crystal clear. I have zero intention of getting hitched, old man. Then he started dropping facts. He reminded the guy that he's already the heir to the massive Yu family, so he owns plenty of treasure. Plus, the emperor respects his pop so much, he sends jewels just for fun. Merchant guilds already give him whatever he wants, so marrying into the Namgung clan for cash is pointless. He's the golden only child of a powerful family, so the geezer needs to forget this wedding fantasy. The MC walked away, totally let down, and here he thought Song was actually going to teach him something useful. The old man finally realized his mistake. The kid was born with a diamond spoon. He doesn't need their jade. But the elder wasn't giving up, yet he climbed to his position with nothing but his sword. When others quit, he became the Sword King. He noticed Hun had an eye for martial arts. So, at the crack of dawn, the old devil started showing off techniques while Hun sat there, wondering why he was awake this early. After flexing the entire royal sword art, he turned to the boy. Pretty impressive, right? He asked, expecting applause. But our MC was just thinking, do old people just not sleep or what? Desperate to impress him, the uncle channeled his aura and blasted a tree with his sword energy. Even then, the MC only thought, damn, that winter tree was expensive. The old man tried a few more tricks, but eventually gassed out, figuring he'd shown enough to hook the kid. Then came the bait. He explained that these secret arts are only for direct bloodlines, but if the boy got married, he'd inherit every single scroll. Hun knew exactly what play this was and just walked off. The uncle scrambled after him, desperate. Think about it. This is the Namgung style. All the money in the world can't buy this power. He begged the young man to just try mastering it, claiming it held the ultimate truth of combat. But the MC just yawned. I don't see anything interesting about it. Surprisingly, the old man didn't explode. Instead, he just burst out laughing. He figured since Hun was a newbie, he couldn't grasp the depth yet. To a beginner's eye, true mastery might look simple, but the reality is way different. He started a long, philosophical rant about how this art was perfected over centuries. Even changing a single step alters the flow of the universe, he preached. Suddenly, the MC cut him off. It looks pretty easy to copy. Actually, That finally triggered the uncle. But our boy was ready to drop some jaws and show his skills. Hun grabbed a random stick off the floor, thinking this would finally shut the old guy up about the marriage. He'd actually learned the Namgung style while getting beaten up by his master in his past life. He figured, why not play the genius card again? The boy started swinging the stick around casually. You mean, something like this? The uncle started to yell, you fool. Martial arts isn't a joke. But then he choked on his words. The kid was perfectly replicating the moves and filling them with real internal energy. Chang's son's jaw hit the floor. He couldn't believe a child just mastered the royal sword art instantly. He screamed, stop right there. What is the meaning of this? Where did you learn that? Hun looked at him like he was the stupidest person on earth. You literally just showed it to me, old man. The realization hit him like a truck. It took this kid one glance to master a secret family technique. He was standing in front of a monster genius the world had never seen before. Changong completely froze up. The boy noticed his uncle looked like his brain had short-circuited. He even forgot how to blink. He tried to snap him out of it, but saw his chance to escape. He tossed the stick aside and dipped, shouting back, I'm still not marrying her. But a greedy fire lit up in the old man's eyes. This kid was a treasure in human form. He had times to make him his grandson-in-law. Meanwhile, a squad led by Manhwa rolled into the city, hunting for a target. They grilled the tavern owner and got a lead on a young guy who showed up 2 days ago. They immediately started hunting for anyone who knew about the mountain slope and the red stone. The squad confirmed the name, Jyn Wigan. They had their target. The next morning, young Namgung was already banging on Hun's door, calling out for his younger uncle. When Hun finally opened up, Seong demanded, why are you still in bed? Don't you know training starts today? Yawning, Hun waved him off. I don't need to learn your family's stuff. You go have fun by yourself, nephew. The boy was shocked, but then glared daggers and ordered, get dressed and follow me. Now, Hun gave him a sickeningly sweet smile. In his past life, that look would have terrified armies, but now he just looked like an innocent kid. The nephew actually hated Hun, even though grandfather wouldn't shut up about his god-tier talent. Copying moves is one thing, but raw talent doesn't guarantee survival. A true master needs to cultivate inner energy from the cradle. But Sun couldn't sense a drop of power from Hun. Hun just turned his back, yawning, I'd rather catch some more Z's. Furious, the boy slammed a hand on Hun's shoulder. You better come with me while I'm still asking nicely and calling you uncle. Hun was amused this kid was literally digging his own grave. He turned back with a grin, realizing this was the perfect chance to educate his new student. Hun brushed the hand off his shoulder like it was dirt. You think you can teach me? I have nothing to learn from you. In fact, I should be teaching you, nephew. It looked ridiculous since Sun was way taller and older looking. The boy exploded with rage. I called you uncle and showed respect. Where is this arrogance coming from? Hun was loving this. What's wrong with your face? You look constipated. Are we going to training, or are you trying to fight me? Sun clenched his fists so hard his knuckles turned white, trying not to punch him, but Hun delivered the final blow. Go ahead and try it, if you can, dear nephew. Hun just laughed, acting innocent while emphasizing the word nephew. That was it. Sun snapped. You psycho. You bully. Your arrogance is piercing the heavens. The boy was trembling with pure fury. But Hun just stood there, disappointed. Is that the best you've got? Even your insults are too polite. Disgusting. Seeing the pure rage twisting the young master's face, Hugh knew he pushed the right buttons. But to truly break that noble shell, he needed to turn the disrespect dial up to 11. He leaned in, dropping all formalities like a total savage. Yo, nephew, he sneered. You know any words that actually hurt, or just polite complaints? Sun froze. This was the most humiliating moment of his elite life. He was being roasted, and he didn't even know how to clap back. The poor kid had never dropped an F-bomb in his life. But Hyun, that guy was a walking dictionary of disrespect. Sun realized this wasn't just childhood teasing. His uncle was a master of trash talk, straight from the gutter. You see, the Namgung clan wasn't just about swinging metal. The legendary ancestor was known as the king of the 7 emotions sword. Anger, joy, disgust, love, sadness, fear, and pleasure. He turned feelings into lethal weapons. Sun's old master used to beat him based on his mood swings. Woke up grumpy? That's a beating for Sun. Eating lunch and feeling happy? Beat the kid while laughing. Raining outside? Cry emotional tears while smacking the student. It was total psychological warfare. Adapting to a psycho who changed moods 12 times a day was impossible. And now, Sun was dealing with Hyun, a guy who had mastered emotional control, but chose to be a chaotic troll instead. If this kept up, a future hero of the Murim world was gonna get crushed before he even started. Hyun grabbed his head. Man, they gave me a broken student. I just want to help the kid level up. But to fix him, he'd have to break him first. Hyun grinned like a maniac. Buckle up, Buttercup. This training arc is going to be hell. Sun looked confused, but Hyun didn't waste breath explaining. You'll get it when my fist connects with your face. Asterisk. Whoosh. Asterisk. Hyun closed the gap instantly using the legendary Heavenly Wind footwork. Hyun planted his feet and wound up. Let me show you the difference between a cheap copy and the real deal. Asterisk. Bam. Asterisk. He unleashed a barrage of lightning-fast strikes. Sun wasn't total trash, he dodged the first wave. He realized his uncle was wide open. The kid backflipped through the air, launching a counter kick. But Hyun sent him flying with a single swat. Is that all you got? Your defense is garbage. Sun saw Hyun charging again and panicked, throwing up a desperate guard. Hyun smirked, fist cocked back. You think that weak chi shield is going to stop me? Cute. Asterisk. Kaboom. Asterisk. The punch landed, and Sun's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. He targeted the one split-second opening in Sun's defense and smashed right through his spiritual armor. Right at the point of impact, Hyun detonated his chi. It was the Namgung family's secret explosive technique. Asterisk. Boom. Asterisk. The force was so insane it blasted the poor nephew straight through a brick wall. Sun lay in the rubble, coughing up dust and blood. But he was laughing. He couldn't believe it. He used our clan's secret art without even having a core. Just by watching. Hyun had mastered the flow of chi just by looking at it once. The guy wasn't just strong, he was a heaven-defying monster. Hyun walked through the dust, cracking his knuckles. Get up. We're just getting started. Sun felt a chill down his spine. The tutorial was over the real. Beatdown was about to begin. Hyun was absolutely glowing with joy as he pummeled the arrogance out of the young master. I've been waiting to humble a rich kid like you for ages. Cowering under the rain of fists, the noble young master finally snapped. Stop it. You absolute pisco. You scumbag. You piece of trash. He started screaming every bad word he could think of. Hyun paused, a proud smile spreading across his face. There it is, that fire. That's the anger you need to fuel the sword. But the poor kid didn't get the lesson. He just kept screaming and cursing while Hyun beat him with tears of joy. Yes. Let the hate flow. Asterisk. Whack. Asterisk. Finally, a mercy chop knocked the boy out cold. Kid's weak, Hyun muttered, but he'll do. He thought about feeding him some treasure scraps later. But right now, the mission was bigger. He needed to hunt down the next spiritual creature. But his memory was hazy about the damn servant. Then it clicked. He knew a guy, someone who knew exactly where the second spirit was hiding. The target, Huangdum. Location. The Chaos Prison. Timeline. The meeting with the Servant of Chaos was going down in 6 months. The plan, crash the party, chop the servant's head off, and stop the apocalypse before it even starts. Simple. Right? But this was the Murim world, variables were everywhere. He needed backup. He hoisted his unconscious nephew onto his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Time to level up, kid. Hyun sprinted into the distance. This time, destiny isn't slipping through my fingers. Later, Namgung's son woke up with a splitting headache. What kind of monster beats his own family like that? He groaned. That scumbag uncle. I swear I'll get revenge. Who's a scumbag? A voice whispered from the darkness. Sun jumped. Hyun was standing right behind him with that creepy smile. You weren't talking about me, were you? No, never. Just talking to myself. Sun stammered, sweating bullets. Hyun didn't buy it. Why are you shaking then? Asterisk, pal. Asterisk. A couple of disciplined taps just to be sure. When they met the clan elders, they lied through their teeth. Oh, these bruises? Just a passionate sparring match. Nothing to see here. Sun nervously fixed his collar. Sparring? That was straight-up domestic abuse, but Hyun just grinned. The young master needs intense training, and I'm the only one who can handle him. Sun realized with horror that he was stuck in a one-on-one hell camp with this demon. And so, the torture, training began. 10 days of non-stop hands later, something changed. Sun stopped crying and started biting back. He infused his sword with pure rage, his strikes finally carrying the weight of a killer. Hyun watched, satisfied. See? Nothing motivates a man like near-death trauma. The anger injection phase was complete. Now, Hyun tossed his stick aside. Let's see if you can handle this. He launched a flying knee straight at the kid's chin. Asterisk crack. Asterisk Sun went airborne. But he didn't black out. A spark of warrior spirit flashed in his eyes. He flipped in mid-air and launched a desperate counterattack at his uncle. Sun landed, panting, thinking he finally landed a hit. But when he looked up, nothing but fading smoke. An afterimage, Hyun was already standing behind him, dusting off his robes. Not bad, kid. But training's over. Let's go hit the town. Huh? Sun blinked. Where are we going? Hyun shot him a look that said, "Ask again and die." Sun scrambled to his feet. "Yes, sir." "Leading the way, sir." Hyun chuckled. The kid learns fast. They headed into the bustling city, where a beggar sat collecting copper coins. Hyun walked up and flicked a silver coin into the bowl big money. The beggar looked up, surprised. It wasn't about the money, it was the signal. "First time in Hefei?" the beggar asked. "Looking for friends?" "Yeah," Hyun whispered, his voice dropping low. "I'm looking for a guy named Jyn Wigan inside the Namgung family." It sounded like small talk, but in the underworld, codes were everything. The information network was open for business. So, the beggar plays dumb, claiming he doesn't know anybody by that name, but the stranger spills the tea about his nightmare trip across the Yangtze, barely surviving a pirate ambush just to find one specific guy. He's hunting for Yu Hyun, the only son of the legendary Yu Song Hoan. Word on the street is, he's currently crashing with the Namgung clan. The guy is panicking, asking if he should beg the clan head for help, but the beggar shuts that down. "No need for drama, fam." The beggar reveals they are already on it because Hyun's son literally just walked past them. They haven't 100% confirmed if Yu Hyun is actually Jyn Wigan yet. It's way too early to bother the big boss, so he assigns a goon to tail the kid instead. Conversation over. Relieved to get that off his chest, the man stands up and thanks the beggar. The beggar laughs it off, acting all helpful, before signaling that it is time to bounce. But yo, trouble is brewing. Two real beggars spot the guy in the hat and realize he ain't part of the crew. He's been loitering on Namgung turf without paying the Beggars Guild tax. They decide to jump the guy for stealing their business and go grab backup for a beatdown. Meanwhile, our main duo hits up a bookstore. Sun is confused why Hien is buying stacks of tearjerker novels. Uncle drops some wisdom, saying his nephew is a rich kid born with a silver spoon who doesn't know real pain. This is the only way to teach him about sorrow. Sun just stares at him blankly, thinking his majestic teacher is even more spoiled than he is. Suddenly, the kid flips the script and suggests watching the Peking Opera because it is hilarious. Honestly, he'd rather chill there than get beaten with sticks or carry heavy books. He asks if joy brings peace to the soul and clarity to the mind, trying to finesse his way out of training. He encounters that inner peace lets you see the enemy's moves clearly. The nephew promises to remember that, but he is still suspicious about how his uncle knows all this high-level stuff. Right then, a squad hunting the Jin Si Nang thief starts tailing the relatives. Their plan? Shadow the young masters and see what happens. Yu Hyun, still undercover as a beggar, tells his crew in the wheat field to chill. They need to capture Namgung quietly without blowing their cover. But suddenly, some randoms crash the party. A gang of beggars rolls up, demanding payment for the spot the spy has been occupying. The spy has to abort his mission instantly. He starts negotiating with these clowns, asking who they think they are. The gang laughs, claiming they run these streets under their leader, Wang Thol. The spy plays the innocent victim card, asking why they are bullying him, but they surround him, ready to throw hands. The man is sweating bullets. He can't use his inner energy or the Namgung family will sense it and blow his cover. He has to stand there and take the beating. Watching this go down, Sun asks his uncle if they should step in. He was taught that ganging up on one dude is total trash behavior. Uncle looks away cold. He tells the boy he's too sheltered. Justice doesn't always win in the real world, and this ain't their fight. Since this is Namgung territory, getting involved with illegal gangs is messy. It's just natural selection happening on the streets. Sun asks if they are from the Kai Bang, but something's off. The uncle recognizes the Gua gang. They are posers with zero real martial arts skills. Basically, this isn't a warrior's duel. It's just a petty turf war between bums, so it's not worth our time. Once Hien and Sun leave the scene, the spy drops the act. He tosses one attacker aside like a rag doll, and the rest freeze in terror. The beast has awakened. Wang Thol cowers in the back but screams at his minions to keep attacking. The spy approaches him with a dark, murderous aura, asking if he realizes the mistake he just made. Thol is shaking, confused how this victim suddenly turned into a monster. The spy mutters about a 1 in a million plan that can't afford any slip-ups. Thol drops to his knees, begging for his life. But the only punishment for ruining the plan is death. In front of the whole crew, the spy twists the leader's head off like a bottle cap. He orders his hidden subordinates to clean up the mess. The bodies vanish in an instant, but one bandit manages to slip away, traumatized and crying. He knows those weren't ordinary beggars. Hysterical and terrified, he sprints across the field to warn the Kai Bang branch before it's too late. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Grandpa Changun is losing his mind. He rips up a letter from his granddaughter saying she ain't coming home. Hansu tries to chill him out, reminding him he said she shouldn't marry if she didn't want to. But the old man is raging and orders the heavenly squad to drag her back. Hansu sighs, explaining she's already at the battlefield. She timed that letter perfectly so she would be gone before he read it. Chang'an is shaking with fury. He flips a table and screams at his son, asking how he raised such rebellious kids. Hansu awkwardly reminds him that Grandpa was the one who raised her to be a warrior for the family. Talk about a backfire. Suddenly, Grandpa switches up. If he can't stop her, he'll send Yoon to the Murim alliance instead. He rushes to tell the boy his brilliant plan but hears swearing coming from the courtyard. Thinking it's an enemy attack, the old man leaps over a 3-meter wall like a ninja. But he is shook by what he sees. Hyun is teaching Sun to channel sadness into his sword strikes. The boy is thinking about the main character dying in his novel. The old man watches, disbelief written all over his face as his grandson gets pummeled. Hyun hits a nerve, and Sun starts swinging the stick with tears streaming down his face. It's not just crying, he is sobbing. But his next strike is packed with raw, suppressed rage. Just then, Hyun spots the old man perching on the fence. Not knowing why the head of the house is playing Spider-Man, he stops the fight. The boy is salty because he was finally getting into the zone to smack his annoying uncle. The old man is shocked his grandson is cursing, but honestly, he isn't even mad. In fact, he's trying his hardest not to burst out laughing. He jumps down and tries to play it cool, saying the training looked interesting. But his excuse is flimsy since, it is literally his house. Grandpa gets serious and asks if the uncle is teaching Sun sword arts. The young master denies it instantly, claiming they're just sparring for fun. Sun looks at him like, bro, really? He was definitely being taught sword arts, so he doesn't get why his uncle is lying. Chang'an notes that the boy's style is totally different from the family's technique now. Hyun smoothly blames it on Han's influence. The boy is confused, whispering to his uncle, asking what the heck is going on. His uncle told him to zip it and pay attention. It was time to learn the secrets of the legendary 7 senses of the sword technique. Hyun flashed back to what his master once said about infusing raw emotion into the blade. But honestly, standing there right now, he was totally clueless about what that meant. The old master chuckled at the boy's confusion. But hearing about emotional sword arts sparked something. The rigid Namgung style was finally evolving into a new era. Hyun tried to get back to the topic of the visit, but the drama wasn't over. Just as the old man started spilling tea on the Murim alliance, a servant burst in screaming for help. The servant was panting hard, apologizing to the former clan head. But there was no time for manners. The beggar sect's Hefe branch was in serious trouble. The old man was shocked. Why visit now? The servant dropped the bomb. A total disaster hit Kian overnight. The Namgung duo realized things were getting real and told Hyun, "Catch you later, kid, we gotta roll." Watching them leave, Hyun couldn't help but stare. Grandfather and grandson looked like clones, same dark hair, same fierce amber eyes. That bloodline is strong. With training officially cancelled, our MC didn't know what to do with himself. He decided to hit the streets and see what kind of trouble he could find. But he wasn't alone. Shadows lurking in the crowd spotted him instantly. The hunt for the ginseng thief was on, and they were signaling the attack using secret codes. The leader didn't want to wait for a better chance. The order dropped: surround the target and snatch him the second he's alone. Too bad, Hyun was taking his sweet time. He strolled through the streets like a VIP, stopping at every stall. But man, the Anping market was intense. Everyone trying to give him free stuff was actually kind of stressful for the boy. Nobody here knew his true identity, but it made him miss his own crew. He couldn't help but wonder if his people back home were doing okay without him. But first, he had a mission to finish so the world could stay peaceful. While plotting his next move against the Chaos faction, he felt eyes burning into the back of his neck. Hyun whipped around to get a better look. Wait a minute, he thought. I've definitely seen that face somewhere before. The guy played it cool and walked right past. Hyun shrugged it off, heading for a bookstore, until some random vendor shoved a snack in his face. Hey, try this? Munching on the treat, Hyun's eyes darted back. The stalker was still there. As he passed another bench, the memory finally clicked into place. It was that beggar who got beat up yesterday. He cleaned up nice, but you can't fool our MC. That guy was definitely part of the crew spying on them earlier. Time for a little surprise. Hyun walked up with a big, fake smile, like, "Hey buddy," pretending to read a book, then bam. He launched a surprise attack right to the face. The stalkers were totally shook. They didn't see that coming at all. Hyun took the chance and bolted like a lightning bolt. The goons scrambled after him, cornering him in a dead end. But wait, Hyun was already chilling on the roof, looking down like a king. "Who are you guys anyway?" He laughed. "Why are a bunch of grown men chasing a kid? You got a crush on me or something?" The air crackled with tension as he called them out for scurrying around like rats. He locked eyes with the leader. That nasty, unfriendly look on his face confirmed it. This was definitely the guy from yesterday's mess. Silence speaks volumes, right? Since they didn't answer, Hyun knew he was right. His brain was working overtime. Are these guys the Nine Dragons remnants, or just greedy ginseng hunters? But these guys were way off course. The gang signaled each other with hand signs. Killing him would be easy, but he's the son of a major figure. Touching him means war with the authorities. They needed proof first. The leader shouted, "Hey, are you Jyn Wigan? The one who swallowed the legendary Pure Ginseng?" Hyun pulled his classic me act. Jin who? Never heard of him. But the bad guy wasn't buying that innocent act for a second. Here's the kicker. To absorb the Pure Ginseng, you need master-level chi release. And looking at Hyun, the kid looked as magically empty as a wet paper bag. Inside, Hyun was laughing his head off. His training with Master Kabanu allowed him to hide his power perfectly. These clowns couldn't sense his aura if it hit them in the face. If they wanted the ginseng, they were definitely linked to the Servant of Chaos. Hyun decided right there, I'm not running. I'm gonna catch them all and squeeze the truth out of them. Thinking the kid was useless, the men bowed. Our mistake, kid. We're leaving. But Hyun wasn't about to let his prey walk away that easily. He stepped in their path. Leaving so soon? I'm just getting started, the leader snapped. Waste of time. Knock the brat out. Hyun smirked as the goons charged. But before they could even lay a finger on him, they were blasted back by an invisible force. Boom. Folding his arms like a boss, Hyun grinned sarcastically. What happened? I thought you said I looked weak. The leader's jaw hit the floor. How did he do that with zero inner strength? Hyun read the fear in his eyes like an open book. So, Hyun asked calmly, are we dancing or what? Come at me all at once. Fighting them here was annoying, so he decided to switch up the battlefield. He grabbed the two unconscious goons, tossed them over his shoulder like sacks of potatoes, and vanished. He was moving at the speed of light. The assassins were fast. One almost sliced him, but Hyun dodged the blade by a millimeter. Then he spotted it, the perfect building for his master plan. He hurled the unconscious guys onto the roof like he was shooting a three-pointer. The whole structure groaned, and people started screaming, "Run! It's gonna collapse." But that wasn't enough chaos. Hyun wanted total destruction. He wound up and delivered a devastating kick to the main support beam. Crash! Dust exploded everywhere. As the building crumbled, Hyun emerged from the smoke. You guys are fast, he laughed, then put his fingers to his lips and blew a piercing whistle. The gang leader froze. Sweat trickled down his face. He realized too late that everything had gone horribly wrong. You naive idiots. Hyun smirked. You followed me all the way from Hefei? Well, guess what? You're about to meet the Namgung clan and the beggar sect. The leader's face twisted in rage. You despicable little rat. He knew that if those two giant factions showed up, his squad was dead meat. Cut him down and run, the leader screamed, drawing his blade. But Hyun just stood there, smiling at their desperate attempt to escape his trap. Hyun kicked a massive chunk of rubble at them. You can't hide behind rocks, they roared. Hyun's eyes flashed cold. Who said I was hiding? He dropped a hint, run or die. Lucky for them. Surviving the 12 chain cuts is a miracle in itself. But suddenly, a voice chilled his spine. Watch your back, rookie. It was the swordsman from before. Hyun smirked at their cute teamwork, but his hand clamped around the guy's throat like a vice. Call yourself a master? You left your defenses wide open, you amateur. Realizing it was game over, the assassin popped a poison pill instantly. He offered his soul to the afterlife right in the boy's grip. Hyun couldn't believe the sheer resolve, but turning around revealed the true nightmare. The enemy leader stood there, his blade piercing the very subordinate Hyun had planned to interrogate. Cold-blooded betrayal. He silenced his own crew to erase any evidence. With a sharp command, the survivors scattered like rats. The chase was on. Hyun was ticked off. He tossed the poisoned corpse aside like trash and declared, no more holding back. He closed the distance in a flash, forcing one runner to turn and fight. Please. That pathetic blade was a joke to Hyun. He ignored the small fry, he only wanted the big boss. But then, disaster. They split up at the main road, complicating everything. If even one escapes, it's a headache later. But surprise, Hyun wasn't the only hunter tonight. The assassins were running straight into a trap. The Heavenly Squad and the Hao clan were waiting on the rooftops. Hyun grinned like a predator. Now he could focus all his rage on catching the leader. Still, Hyun had to roast them. Took you guys long enough. Meanwhile, the leader was sweating bullets. Getting caught meant his grand plan was toast. He threw a red sphere. Boom. An explosion to cover his escape. But when the smoke cleared, the young monster was already gone from his rear view. Smack! A fist connected with his face. Hyun was already in front of him. Cracking his knuckles, Hyun laughed. Just give up, dude. Your squad is already in chains. The battered leader screamed, Who are you? Hiding your power from the Yu family. But Hyun wagged a finger playfully. Nua. Winner asks the questions first, loser. Hyun asked for his identity, but got zero reply. The boy's smile turned dark. Silent treatment? That's fine. We're all alone. I've got all night to make you talk. The man gripped his sword with trembling hands. He knew it was checkmate. His men had chosen death, and he was ready to join them in hell. If he was going down, he was taking this demon with him. Hyun recognized that glint in his eye immediately. He knew exactly what this desperate fool was planning. Hyun's casual attitude drove the assassin crazy. Is this a joke to you? But Hyun was dead serious. No allies around to watch. Perfect. Time to end this in one shot. The assassin, fueled by rage, prepared a lethal counter to slit the boy's throat. He banked everything on Hyun, rushing in blindly. He waited for that split second to strike the neck. Just one mistake. But oh, did he miscalculate? He wasn't dealing with a normal fighter. Hyun was about to give him a lesson in levels of power 101. Invisible energy slammed into the ground, making the earth tremble. His stance felt heavy enough to hold up the sky itself. The man saw the fist raise and thought, just a scare tactic? Bam! A devastating blow crushed his solar plexus before he could even blink. Hyun grinned down at him. Surprised? That's the lost Shaolin art, the 100-step fist. To master that, you gotta take 100,000 punches to the face. Literally. Watching the guy cough up a river of blood, Hyun pondered his next move. Can't chat here. He decided to drag this sorry mess back to the Namgung clan. Suddenly, a hairy dude jumped in. Hold up. It was Pekson, branch leader of the beggar sect. He begged to take a quick peek at the prisoner. Hyun shrugged. Be my guest. Pekson's crew leaned in close. Their eyes went wide. Boss. This looks exactly like the thief described by the bomb squad. Pekson respectfully asked, let the beggar sect handle this trash. Hyun grimaced. These guys were slick, trying to snatch his prey after he did all the work. Just then, Namgung's son came screaming in. Uncle, who ruined your outfit? Seeing Hyun's torn clothes, the boy raged. Who wants to die today? After 10 days of hell training, he was finally acting like a loyal guard dog. Asterisk smack. Asterisk, Hyun slapped the back of his head. Shut it, you idiot. Son teared up. Why the abuse? While dodging another slap. Meanwhile, Pekson was sweating. This captive wasn't weak. Even the minions were chi release masters. And this kid wiped them out solo? Pekson immediately bowed low, apologizing for underestimating the young monster. Hyun cut to the chase. So, why do you guys want him so bad? The answer was chilling. This scumbag single-handedly annihilated the entire Gua gang. They turned the question back on Hyun. Why were they hunting times, you asterisk? Hyun played innocent. Wrong place, wrong time. They mistook me for someone else. Mistook you for who? Hyun shrugged. No clue. But I'm a disciple of the great Chu Bull. I don't let people push me around. Pekson narrowed his eyes. The kid was definitely lying. But Hyun realized this was a golden opportunity. The enemy came to times him asterisk, and now he had witnesses. If Hyun dragged the guy back to the Namgung family alone, he wouldn't have the resources to crack him. His current influence was too weak. These assassins operated in the deep shadows. If they realized Hyun was onto them, they'd go underground or strike back in unpredictable ways. If they knew their spy team was busted, they'd pressure the Yu family even harder. Hyun couldn't risk that. He needed a scapegoat to distract them. The beggar sect was perfect. The beggar sect was the perfect shield. If they started digging, they'd uncover the chaos cult's plot and start a war with them. This would buy Hyun precious time. He just needed to nudge them a little. He dropped a hint casually. You know, I think there's a monster pulling this guy's strings. He whispered the words, overturned sky. Pekson's eyes lit up with greed. He needed this prisoner now. He started begging the young master desperately. Hyun went full drama queen. I get it. But I almost died capturing him. He pointed to a tiny scratch like it was a mortal wound. He shot a look at his nephew times play along. Kid, asterisk. But Son panicked. The idiot didn't get the signal and thought his uncle was actually dying of pain. Son's brain went into overdrive. He racked his memory banks. Wait, he didn't just learn fighting. He learned politics and arithmetic too. A light bulb went off. He shouted, back off. Stop pressuring my uncle. Hyun's face twitched. Asterisk, wrong answer. Kid. We're trying to scam them. Asterisk. Pekson didn't give up. He bowed even lower, his voice trembling. Please. The honor of the beggar sect depends on this. Namgung's heir tried to act tough, saying he didn't need to beg for favors. But his uncle cut him off instantly. Uncle Hyun told the beggars he'd handle their mess, but he had two non-negotiable rules. First, nobody could know he was involved. And second, if they found out anything about the target's identity, he needed to know as soon as possible. The heir happily handed the thugs over to the beggar sect, sealing the deal. The beggar sect leader was satisfied enough. He swore on his name to keep the promise. With the contract set in stone, both squads went their separate ways. Hyun walked home with a grin stretching from ear to ear. Meanwhile, the beggars felt totally scammed since they basically had to investigate for free, but the beggar sect branch head slapped some sense into his minions. They were too dull to realize the code phrase "turn the sky upside down" meant a literal coup d'etat. Someone was plotting to take over the entire Murim world. The rookies were shook. The boss explained that if they uncovered who was targeting the Murim alliance, it would be their golden ticket to the main headquarters. This was a legendary opportunity. Realizing the stakes, the subordinates grabbed the prisoner. They hauled him off to their boss for interrogation. That night, sleep was impossible for Hyun. His mind was racing. By interfering, he had officially butterfly-affected the timeline. Staring out the window, he calculated his next move. In the original timeline, a tip about the second treasure wouldn't come for 6 months. But since he snatched the spirit ginseng early, history was rewriting itself fast. The stakes were way higher now. If his enemies were powerful, they wouldn't sit around waiting. Without the ginseng, they would speedrun their plans to grab the second treasure. Hyun had a massive new mission: find Hwang Do-Kam immediately and stop the chaos before it started. He told the former Namgung clan head he was heading to the Murim alliance. The old man was so hyped he almost jumped out of his skin. Hyun claimed he wanted to gain experience, but the old man had a different agenda. He agreed to give Hyun a recommendation letter, secretly planning to hook him up with his granddaughter. He wanted that wedding to happen yesterday. Hyun wasn't interested in the romance plot, but he played along to get permission to leave. However, our MC had one more demand. He was dragging Sun along with him. He needed a sidekick. Judging by the heir's shocked face, nobody had warned him about this sudden road trip. It was tricky because Sun was the heir with major clan duties. But surprisingly, Hyun flipped the script. He argued that a future leader needed to see the world to handle the family's future responsibility. The heir stood up politely, trying to escape to discuss it with the clan head. Sun looked at his uncle in shock, knowing the old man rarely changed his mind. And Hyun was ready with the ultimate bait. He casually mentioned that the Murim alliance was home to the 5 beauties, the most gorgeous stars of the righteous sects. With a sly smile, he acted like it was just a random thought. But the grandfather was listening with 1000% focus. The mention of beautiful girls completely sold him. Hyun knew exactly where to strike. He targeted the old man's desperate desire to see his grandson married off. To seal the deal, Hyun dropped a few more hints while walking out. He muttered about how unpredictable fate is. Maybe he'd meet someone, maybe a wedding, maybe great-grandkids. Spring was in the air, and love was blooming. That was the final push the old man needed. The grandfather screamed for an immediate family council. Hyun walked to his room, literally skipping with joy at his absolute victory. Meanwhile, down at the Yangtze River, a mysterious ship docked. A stern man in luxury robes barked orders to guard the cargo. A worker tried to hand something to the Lord, but he politely refused at first. But the employee insisted, playing the "we're all family here" card. Suddenly, another official rushed in, telling everyone to wrap it up and grab some breakfast. 3 men in black and gold robes marched off the ship. Everyone wished them a safe trip, but the polite employee was secretly glaring daggers at them. He hated these corrupt officials who only knew how to burn cash. Once the ship set sail, the man hurried below deck. Coughing, he warned someone in the shadows that the sailors wouldn't come down until they hit Wuhan. A fugitive in expensive clothes stepped out from behind the crates. He promised to pay the rest of the smuggling fee upon arrival. Failure was not an option. The only obstacle left was the notorious Black Whale pirates. The fugitive watched another group transferring to their ship and prayed they had enough cash to pay the toll. Back on the main deck, Sun was yelling at his uncle. He tried to stop Hyun from doing anything crazy, asking why he wasn't afraid of the pirates. The heir tried to explain the politics. Sure, beating up pirates sounds heroic, but the collateral damage would be insane. Hyun didn't know the local politics, but he knew he was OP enough to crush anyone. Sun realized his uncle was clueless. He explained that provoking the Yangtze pirates would trigger a massive disaster. A fight here wouldn't just be a skirmish. It could spark an all-out war with the Yangtze River gang. Hyun looked at his nephew like he was boring him to death. Was this kid always such a buzzkill? Sun decided to bring out the big guns and mention the legendary monster his grandfather had fought. The water tamer, King Gusaji, the man known as the monster of the sea. Hyun still looked unimpressed. Sun begged him to just sit down and chill. If they started a fire here, every crossing on the Yangtze River would burn, costing them a fortune. Hyun looked at his nagging nephew and smack. He slapped the back of his head. Sun teared up, asking why his uncle was becoming a bully, but Hyun ignored the whining. He thought for a second. He'd never heard of this water tamer king, but maybe it was better to lay low this time. just to be safe. Meanwhile, seagulls flew peacefully overhead. A sailor on watch squinted at the horizon. Suddenly, he screamed. The black whale pirate ship was incoming. Panic exploded on deck as everyone rushed to see the threat. As soon as the pirate stepped aboard, the ship's captain went into full suck-up mode. He greeted the pirate leader, Kudak, asking how he'd been. The pirate smirked and returned the greeting. The captain laughed nervously, saying everything was great thanks to Kudak's protection, and ordered a sailor to bring out the bribe money. A chest of gold appeared instantly. The pirate leader looked satisfied. The system was working perfectly. Sun saw the transaction and relaxed, but then the pirates didn't leave. Hyun, leaning against the rail, muttered, "Why stress when the ocean view is this nice?" The pirate leader announced that the toll was paid, but he had a side quest. He was looking for a specific person. The man hiding below deck started sweating bullets. Kudak asked if everyone was on deck or if someone was playing hide and seek. The pirate gripped the captain's shoulder with a menacing smile. He said he knew the captain sometimes smuggled illegal passengers. He promised to let it slide, as long as they handed over the guy they were hunting. Yo, this sailor was shaking in his boots. Getting paid later sounds nice, but keeping his head attached to his body, yeah, that's way more important to him right now. Despite the panic, he spilled the beans. Someone was hiding in the hold. Captain Kudok sent his goons to check it out, and this loudmouth pirate started barking orders, telling everyone to line up or face the consequences. They claimed they were only hunting one criminal and the rest were safe. But come on, who trusts pirates? The passengers were freaking out, terrified that things were about to go south real quick. One of the goons checked the ranks and spotted Hun, just chilling and staring at the ocean like he was on vacation. The pirate walked up and slapped him right on the back of the head, asking if he was deaf. Sun, standing nearby, watched in pure horror. He wasn't praying for his uncle. He was praying to every god up there to save this ignorant pirate from the beatdown he was about to receive. Lucky for that goon, a massive commotion exploded from the hold before Hun could react. A dude walked out looking super confident, having just wrecked Kudok's men. The captain was absolutely fuming. The fugitive couldn't believe Kibben sent these clowns to catch him. He looked straight at the pirates and basically said, "Really? You sent this trash to capture me? Talk about a savage roast." Oh, that hit a nerve. The pirate lost it, drew his blade, and charged. He didn't care about the capture him alive order anymore. His thirst for revenge was burning way too hot. Hun was watching from the sidelines, judging their skills like a pro. He had to admit, the fugitive had some smooth moves, effortlessly dodging that lethal strike. Then, out of nowhere, Hun snatched a sword from the pirate who slapped him earlier and jumped into the fray. Sun wanted to stop him, but Hun froze, his eyes locking onto something specific on the stranger's arm. When the pirate ripped the guy's sleeve, it revealed a red snake tattoo, that mark. Hun recognized it instantly. It belonged to a legendary figure from the Chanu Union prison. His name was Huang Dulk Sam, the key to the treasure Hun was hunting for. A wicked grin spread across Hun's face. Looks like Lady Luck was finally smiling on him today, fam. Sun screamed, begging his uncle to chill, but Hun wasn't listening. He barked an order, "Protect the civilians. If anyone gets a scratch, you're getting 2 days of anger training." Poor Sun. The nephew had no choice. He drew his blade, ready to defend the innocent. But looking at the sheer number of enemies, he knew he couldn't stop them all by himself. He had to go all out. Channeling his internal energy, he swung his sword so fast it created a protective barrier of wind. The passengers behind him were looking at him like he was a guardian angel. Even while fighting, Sun kept one eye on his chaotic uncle. Meanwhile, Captain Kwadok launched a heavy strike, forcing Huang to scramble for a dodge. The captain put way too much muscle into that swing, throwing himself off balance. Huang saw the opening and prepared to counterattack. This was his moment. It was do or die. But suddenly, bam. Hun flashed between them, shielding Huang and delivering a nasty punch right to the pirate's face. Talk about a plot twist. After flattening the pirate, Hun turned to the fugitive. "Yo, are you Huang Dulk Sam?" Seeing the shock on the guy's face, Hun knew he hit the jackpot. He told Huang, "I'm saving your hide because I've got questions." Then, with his usual swag, Hun turned to the pirates. "I need this guy. So, what's the move, fellas? Are you gonna bounce, or do I have to delete you all?" The pirates froze in fear. But while Hun was distracted, yelling at them, he turned around and poof. Huang was gone. Hun bolted toward the railing just in time to see Huang dive straight into the ocean. The dude was swimming away like a maniac. Hun was salty. "I just saved your life, and you ghost me without even a thank you." Meanwhile, Kudok woke up, groggy but angry, screaming at his crew to catch the fugitive. The loyal minions didn't hesitate and cannonballed into the water. Hun didn't even look back as he shouted for his nephew. Son, get over here. He gave Son a mission. Handle Kudok. If you screw this up, it's a full week of anger training. And trust me, guys, anger training basically means Hun beating him up until he blacks out. Terrified of the training, Son swore a solemn oath. I'll die before I let him escape. That's the motivation of fear right there. Satisfied, Hun dove in after Huang. The second he hit the water, he shot forward like a torpedo. Kudok watched in disbelief, asking Son, who is that monster? Even Son was shook. He wondered, since when does Uncle know high-level water martial arts? The guy is full of surprises. He remembered Hun swimming to lose weight, but this was on another level. Suddenly, the pirate made the mistake of asking Son who he was, reminding the boy of his mission to crush him. Son's eyes went cold. Who am I? To you. I'm the guy who's about to end your career for threatening innocent people. No more talking. Son unleashed a beatdown on the captain. Meanwhile, in the water, Hun was closing the gap, screaming, Mr. Huang, stop playing hard to get. One naive pirate thought he could take Hun out while they were swimming. Big mistake, buddy. Huge mistake. Hun dodged, popped out of the water, and literally stepped on the pirate's head to launch himself into the air. He was treating this whole thing like a parkour game. Legend says masters could cross rivers on a reed leaf, but Hun, he was crossing the ocean hopping on pirates' heads. In seconds, he landed right in front of Huang, telling him to chill. Huang was stunned. He thought he was looking at a grandmaster using the legendary flight over water technique. That's god-tier movement. Hun waved it off. Nah, I don't know fancy spells. I'm just that good at martial arts. But Huang wasn't ready to surrender. Hun clicked his tongue. Here we go again. Huang didn't have time for this tag game. He effortlessly bypassed Huang's defense, grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him onto the beach. Hun sighed, wasted energy. I just want to talk. Huang scrambled back in the sand, shouting, why should I trust a weirdo like you? Weirdo. Hun was actually hurt. The guy hadn't even introduced himself and was already throwing shade. Fed up, Hun tapped a pressure point on Huang's chest. Sit tight while I handle the trash. Then we chat. Huang tried to yell, but Hun poked a few more spots to shut him down. He paralyzed the guy temporarily. Hun wasn't trying to be cruel. He just couldn't risk his loot ticket running away again. Just then, the rest of the pirate crew dragged themselves out of the water. Hun looked at the dripping mob and calculated the fastest way to wipe them out. As the horde charged, Hun smirked. Perfect time to test out the Tang family arts, he thought. He remembered his strict master saying, true masters can turn anything into a weapon. Even sand becomes deadly in the right hands. Back at the fortress, he used snow. Here, he grabbed a handful of pebbles and flicked them with terrifying speed. It was basically a machine gun made of rocks. Boom. Headshot. The stones found their mark, and the first 4 goons dropped like flies before they knew what hit them. The rest of the mob froze in pure terror. Hun paused, remembering his nephew's warning about causing too much drama. Yeah, right. Like that was ever going to stop him. A psycho grin stretched across his face. Simple solution, he laughed maniacally. Just delete the witnesses. The pirates scrambled to run, tripping over themselves, but nobody outruns Hyun's blade today. Trash mobs cleared. Now for the main event. He walked up to the captive and poked his pressure points to force a system reboot on the guy's body. The second Huang could speak, he gasped. Who? Who are you? The MC dropped his fake gamer tag with zero hesitation. Call me Jyn Wigan. Hyun kept his poker face. He wasn't sure if this guy was a minion of chaos, so he couldn't risk revealing his true level just yet. Time to figure out the best way to squeeze this guy for intel. He decided to play the bad cop. Listen up, homie. You get one chance, he said, his voice dropping an octave. Where is the 1,000-year shell hiding? Huang's face went pale. Bingo. The MC knew he had a lead. Spit it out, he demanded, eager for the loot. But the guy started stuttering, pressing his lips together and claiming he knew zero, zilch, nada. The young master smirked, pretending to buy the act. Is that so? He stood up, cracking his knuckles. Guess I'll have to verify that myself. He started stomping the guy like a discarded soda can. Sweet dreams, buddy. Hope you talk before I bury you alive. Maybe in the backyard or the mountains. I'm not picky. The poor guy was clueless, thinking he'd met a total lunatic. Meanwhile, Sun finally swam to shore, wondering why his uncle dragged the fight so far out into the boonies. Then he saw the beatdown. Damn, uncle goes harder on strangers than family. Note to self. Keep distance when he's in beast mode. He turned and shouted at Kudok, the pirate currently powering their Uber boat. Yo, chill out. Don't row so fast. The pirate groaned internally. Make up your mind, kid. You were just yelling at me to speed up a minute ago. But the pirate kept his mouth shut. Just wait till the big boss arrives. These two are toast. Fast forward 4 hours. The victim finally woke up on the boat, only to see that creepy kid grinning at him like a devil. Still not talking. Since he hadn't spilled the beans, it was time for round 2 of the torture game. But suddenly, a pirate cheered like he just won the lottery. The captive smirked. Game over, brats. Looming over them was the legendary Black Whale flagship, a floating fortress of doom with massive black sails. Kudak started talking smack immediately. You guys are dead meat. Whack. A fist shut him up real quick. The MC grinned. Looks like the party guests arrived. But son, yeah, he wasn't feeling the vibe. Uncle, you promised to lay low. He panicked. The MC just shrugged. Too late now, kiddo. With a savage laugh, he launched himself onto the enemy ship. Clean this up for me, will ya? It wasn't even a battle. It was a massacre. In seconds, the boys turned the massive ship into driftwood. Pirates bobbed in the water, clinging to debris for dear life. Kudak shut his trap and kept rowing, praying he wouldn't be next. The pirate chief watched in disbelief. Is my guy working for them now? A minion swam up to the chief's board, panicked. Sir, should we pop the red signal flare? If we do that, the chief grit his teeth. The boss will know we went rogue on this mission. Screw the consequences. Better to get yelled at than lose the Black Whale's rep to these punk kids. The red light pierced the sky, calling forth the monster who ruled the waters. Meanwhile, miles away, Subam, the great advisor of the Alliance, got the urgent news. He slammed his desk. 2 hours ago, the report said pirates were swarming the river mouth, holding the checkpoint hostage and demanding entry. The room went dead silent. That red flare wasn't a toy. It was the "we are about to die" button, used only for catastrophic threats. Why was it fired? Subam roared. We don't know yet, sir. Incompetent fools. 2 hours passed and you have zero intel. He crunched his fist against the wood. If the pirates are terrified enough to use that signal, their enemy must be a monster. His eyes narrowed. And the enemy of my enemy is my new best friend. Send word to the Green Dragons. Now. Deploy to the western checkpoint immediately. Crush the protests and secure the target. We cannot lose access to the Wuhan waterway. Subam paused, his mind racing. Where exactly did that flare go up? Somewhere between Ain and Hube, sir. Cold sweat trickled down the man's forehead. That was Black Whale territory, which meant Times was there. The water monster, the tamer of the deep. Location on the tamer, he snapped, panic rising in his voice. Intel puts him near Ahu, sir. Subam mentally connected the dots on the map. Ezu, Yangtze, Wuhan. The monster was too close. Who do we have in the area? He asked. I need our heavy hitters. The young wandering dragon just checked in for the hidden dragon exams. Subam smirked for the first time. Perfect timing. Cut to a tavern, where the young wandering dragon was trying to enjoy a cold one. Suddenly, the news dropped. K. Duchan, scarred and rugged, rolled his eyes. Can a guy drink in peace without hearing gossip? His buddy was wasted, face planted on the table. Duchan tried to hoist him up. Bro, seriously, your liver is screaming for help. Why do you do this? He finally shouted in his ear. The drunk guy blinked, drooling and annoyed. Why do you want? I was dreaming of dumplings. My uncle's making me work, Duchan sighed, complaining about his life. And you're shipping out to Shenzi tomorrow for that gang war. This is it, man. The big farewell. But the drunk friend just looked confused. We gotta say our goodbyes properly. Are you even listening? The guy burped, dangerously wet. Nah, I'm good, he mumbled, and passed out cold again. Duchan looked at him with pure judgment. Gross. He tossed a coin pouch to his servant. Go find the beggar sect boys at the crossing. Tell them to sweep the waterways north of Wuhan. As soon as possible. Meanwhile, the drunk guy purged his demons literally and sobered up instantly. His eyes sharpened. Wait, the water tamer might make a move. Despite being a mess, he couldn't let his vagabond buddy walk into a trap. Back on the ship, chaos reigned. Han and the nephew stood on deck while passengers freaked out around them. Sun was covering his uncle's back, tossing pirates overboard left and right. Uncle, paused the beatdown. He pointed to the horizon. An entire fleet was closing in. They were like cockroaches, kill one, 10 more appear. I can't interrogate the hostage like this. The MC gritted his teeth. Kudak, is there any land nearby? We need a pit stop. But suddenly, a shadow swooped down from the sky. Crash landing on the deck was a beggar. Nope, it was the young wandering dragon, K. Duchan. He flashed a confident grin. Attention everyone. This ship is now under the Cheonmu Alliance's protection. He glared at the pirates. I suggest you run while you still have legs. He turned to Hyun like, relax fam, I got your back. But then he took a closer look at their guests and realized, oh snap, it's his scumbag teacher. but the ship slammed to a halt anyway. Han couldn't believe his eyes. His teacher, the legendary Chu Bol, was actually listening to orders. The crew crossed their arms, welcoming the big boss of the Yangtze River like true gangsters. Peeping the fancy boat nearby, our main character realized this wasn't a random stop. That's the king who tames the waters, and bro, he is way too close for comfort. So much for the plan. The boys screamed at the oarsmen to spin the boat around, but it was total chaos. The rowers started panicking like headless chickens. But turning a boat takes forever, and they were about to get wrecked. Suddenly, the man waved his hand and boom unleashed energy so massive it froze the entire ship instantly. Han realized this opponent was on a whole different level. The guy hopped onto the deck. The Water King looked small and skinny, but his bodyguard, that dude was built like a tank. Time for introductions. Everyone started sounding off, and Kuchin stepped up to flex his title as the Khan ambassador, trying to butter up the river ruler. Sun dropped his family name to look cool, and Duan tried to brag about his status too, but nope, he got cut off before he could even finish his sentence. The bodyguard moved at light speed. He choked the kid out in a flash, staring down our main character who barely managed to dodge that blitz. The Pirate King just laughed. He couldn't believe a 20-year-old rookie actually tracked the movements of his guard, a master who had perfected Shining Chi. Seeing his buddy getting strangled, Hyun switched to polite mode. He asked the elder, "Yo, why is a legend like you bullying a kid? Isn't that bad for your street cred?" Shockingly, the man actually listened. He called his guard back to save face. He released the boy, flared his aura, and demanded the real tea on what was going on. Han was sweating bullets. They were so close to their destination, and this guy just ruined everything. One wrong word now, and he's getting a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The kid started freestyling a lie. "We were just sailing, you know." And then these mean pirates started bullying regular folks. The king smirked. "So you decided to be a hero and save them." Hyun nodded enthusiastically. But the king's raging aura screamed, "I know you're lying, bro." Panic mode activated. What now? Suddenly, a light bulb went off. Hyun told the elder he was from the Yu family in the Henan province. The king might not know that name in the martial world, but Hyun emphasized that he had major government backup. "My dad used to be the crown prince. He's literally chilling with the emperor right now in the capital." Talk about a massive name drop. His strategist teacher always said, if you can't beat them, flex your connections. And if you don't have any, lie big. But the king just shrugged. He didn't give a singular damn whose son Hyun was. Hyun was shaking. His bluff flopped hard, and he was starting to think his teachers gave him absolute garbage advice. The elder grinned. "I'm a pirate for life, kid. The law hates me anyway, so I don't care about your fancy clans or who runs the country." Hyun was getting salty now. He was in a hopeless situation, trying to protect the crew and his trash teacher. Plus, he had a hostage tied up in the cargo hold. He was totally outmatched. He couldn't even scratch the Water King's guard. But wait, the divine strategist taught him one more trick, the art of negotiation. You either crush them with power or tempt them with goodies. Hyun bowed respectfully and begged the elder to hear him out one last time. He tried to smooth it over, claiming he was just reporting his status and definitely wasn't trying to disrespect the big boss. The king looked skeptical. "What's your angle, kid?" Hyun politely asked for mercy, even though he knew this guy sank ships for breakfast. "With all due respect," Hyun said, "I'll pay you." He figured, since the guy is a pirate, he must be thirsty for cash, right? The old man paused. "You talking about money?" Hyun nodded quickly and asked, "Name your price, elder." Suddenly, the king burst out laughing like a maniac. Hyun was confused. Did the thought of gold bars make the old guy lose his marbles? Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk, the king teleported right into his personal space. "I like you, you little rascal." Hyun freaked out and leaped back to safety. The king pointed to the cliffs. "Check it out." A whole squad from the Cheomu clan was standing there, locked and loaded with swords, but they were frozen in place. The king asked, "Why aren't they attacking?" Hyun was clueless. The situation seemed obvious, didn't it? "They're calculating," the king explained. "They scream about justice, but in their heads, they're just figuring out what's best for their wallets. Fighting the Pirate King would cost too many lives, so the king asked Hyun, "Why are you trying so hard to save everyone with a deal?" Hyun realized his lies were cooked. But would this guy believe that he actually needed these people to save the world? While Hyun was thinking, the elders studied him. He liked the kid's guts, but he couldn't figure out Hyun's power level just yet. A rookie shouldn't be able to see his guard move. Unable to figure him out, the king decided to run a little test. Money can't fix everything, boy. He ordered the attack. Hyun had no choice but to dive in to save his student. The beggar froze up in fear, and Hyun screamed, "Dodge, you idiot!" Distracted by his useless friends, Hyun almost got wrecked. He realized the only way out of this mess was to end it with one precise hit. His opponent was a master with shining chi. If this battle dragged on, Hyun was toast. He needed a one-hit knockout right now. He channeled the purest natural chi. This energy was god tier compared to normal power. He knew the guard wouldn't be able to block or dodge this strike. But suddenly, the guard smiled. Just then, the Pirate King stepped in, and bam! He shut Hyun down before he could land the final blow. Hyun hit the deck, sandwiching between the brute and the boss. Talk about unfair matchmaking. The last thing he saw was the Water King grinning down at him. Seeing his uncle knocked out cold, Sun grabbed his sword in a rage, but the king stopped him instantly. Don't make a fatal mistake, kid. One look paralyzed the boy with fear. He couldn't even move as he watched the king throw unconscious Hyun over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Make sure you subscribe to see what happens next. His uncle put everything on the line. He couldn't just stand there like an NPC while his family fought a death match. It was time to lock in. Sun had to save his uncle, no matter the cost. Boom. He flared his chi, shattering the pressure like glass. The old monster actually looked impressed by the sudden power spike. Sun gripped his blade, ready to risk it all. It was do or die time. Sword intent unlocked. Even the elder was shook. That blinding white aura proved he hadn't perfected the technique yet, but the potential? Absolutely legendary. Where was this power coming from? He blasted Junin back and shattered the chi-binding art effortlessly. Bro was defying the laws of physics with just raw energy. But Sun was crashing out. Too much power was frying his brain. The elder smirked. He recognized that bloodline immediately. This wild beast was definitely Chong Sun's kin. The kid went full berserker mode. He rushed the old man with zero fear, but the elder held back. He couldn't delete a prodigy this rare. The grandfather needed to see this monster grow up first. One stomp boom. His chi shook the ocean itself. Fast forward, and Hyun wakes up groggy. But that smell? Is that barbecue? He opens his eyes, and Junin is just chilling on the ground, munching on roast meat. Hyun jumps up, totally confused, but the old guy's like, chill, bro. Fill your stomach first, questions later. Junin was the chef today, roasting up some fresh game. The squad was vibing on the grass until the elder pointed out the fire was dying. K-Dog, fix that heat. Grandpa tosses him a steak. Eat up, kid. Suddenly, panic hits. Hyun scans the area where's Sun, where's Duchen. The homies are missing. Hyun snapped. What did you do to them? The elder just laughed it off. Relax, I spared him. Sent them straight to the Jianghu Alliance. They're fine. Mercy from a villain? No shot. The elder doubled down so Hyun would get it. The Namgung kid took some damage, but he'll bounce back once he wakes up. Don't sweat it. He told Hyun to chill. Even with his bad blood with the family, he wasn't going to stomp out a promising young seedling. Real recognizes real, after all. Hyun let out the biggest sigh ever. Thank the heavens, the nephew is safe and sound. Cue the stomach rumble. Embarrassing. Hyun hesitated with the meat. Is this poisoned? The old man scoffed. The only poison here is your overthinking, kid. Hyun took a bite. He tried to look mad, but dang, that flavor hit different. The elder grilled him with a smirk. Good, right? Eat up. Get those gains. Meanwhile, Sun was getting the VIP treatment from top acupuncturists. The doc was sweating bullets. The Water King actually showed mercy? That's miraculous. Dushan was confused. You call beating him half to death mercy? The doc shook his head. You clueless disciple. You don't get it. If the Water King hadn't intervened, Sun would have gone full chi deviation and ended up disabled. The king didn't just beat him. He fixed his chaotic energy flow. Duchan was still loading, barely processing the info. The doc ordered, guard him. I gotta write a letter to the fam as soon as possible. They had to calm down the Sword King before he went nuclear over the news. Dushan finally started replaying the fight in his head. It was insane. Sun charged in with bloodshot eyes, screaming with rage, and the old man just wham! Slammed him into the floor like a ragdoll. Instantly, the kid's frenzy stopped. Reset complete. The king was like, we're done here, grabbed Hyun, and ghosted on his boat. Duchan was baffled. Why kidnap Lord Yu? Back to the present. Hyun is surrounded by pirates, getting seconds on that BBQ. The king smiled like a sweet grandpa. Hyun was creeped out. Wasn't this guy a demon mode tiger just 5 minutes ago? Now he looks like a regular NPC. But last night, he was a god of war. Hyun's thinking, does this guy have multiple personalities or what? The old man was loving his sake. He passes the cup. How old are you, kid? Hyun downed it like a champ. 17. 17. The king was shook. That much talent at that age? Hyun poured a refill and hit him with a reverse card. So, who taught you? Suspicious question. The king grinned, answer me first. Ham played it safe. My brother-in-law. He's from the Tan family in Hubei. Hyun kept it vague, but the old man wasn't easily fooled. Hubei? Rough neighborhood. But I know the Tan family styles. Their style is rigid, explosive. Hard style, but your moves? Soft. Flexible, totally different vibe. And that palm strike, that wasn't normal internal chi cultivation. That was primal. Hyun started sweating. This guy knew too much. Even the Sword King missed that detail. But the Water King, he saw right through the disguise. He looked at Hyun like he was a rare Pokemon. Before he got exposed, Hyun asked, "What do you want?" The old man admitted it. "I've been around, but I've never seen energy used like times that asterisk." The minions were getting bored watching this convo. The king concluded, "No master in the Murim taught you that. Your brother-in-law is a cover story." Hyun couldn't reveal the Six Saints' secret. Suddenly, the king drops a bomb. "Be my disciple." Hyun froze. "Excuse me?" Totally absurd, right? But then the old man played the debt card. "Remember all that damage you caused earlier? Become my apprentice, and I'll wipe the slate clean." Hyun was screaming internally. He's supposed to save the martial world, not join a pirate crew. Think of the family reputation. The man didn't give him a second to breathe. "You're my student now. Forget the ceremony, just drink the booze. Deal sealed." Hyun tried to object. "Wait," who said? "One death, glare shut him up." The aura said, "I decided." Hyun knew he was cooked. Splash. He got tossed into the river. Flailing around, he shouted, "My dad is a top official, a scholar. I can't be a pirate." The old man raised an eyebrow. "So, official's son can't sail?" Haim played the filial piety card hard. "I'll disgrace my ancestors. I'm a good boy." The king paused, looked him dead in the eye, and asked, "So, should I just beat you until you agree? Look at you swimming. That's natural talent," the king laughed. "It's destiny, kid. You were born to be a pirate. Plus, you tanked a hit from Junon. A diamond like you only spawns once a millennium. I'm keeping you." The logic was twisted, but Ham was trapped. "Welcome to the pirate life." The old master rolled up his sleeves, declaring he saw hesitation in the boy's soul and the only cure was a beatdown. You knew this vibe all too well from his past. It was a total flashback. All his previous teachers had thrashed him just like this. After delivering that educational beating, the old monster asked for his decision. The kid begged for just a little more time. But the Pirate King had zero chill. He strung him up from his stump just to use him as a punching bag. Terrified, Hyun screamed out, "Okay, I'll be your disciple." The old geezer just grumbled that he should have surrendered sooner. Even though he was pressed for time, our boy puffed up his chest. He agreed to become the disciple, but being the schemer he is, Hyun decided to demand compensation for the damage. First condition, this was strictly temporary. He still had a main quest to complete finding Hangdam and infiltrating the Murim Alliance. The king mulled over the temporary offer. Meanwhile, the young schemer was plotting to use this scary old man to fast-track his way into the alliance. He played the reputation card. He argued that if people knew he was a pirate's apprentice, he'd lose all face. He'd be a frog in a well, mocked by everyone. So, he demanded the old man clear a path for him. Then he dropped a massive lie. He claimed he'd use the experience to grow the Yangtze pirates until they dominated the entire globe. The old man's eyes actually lit up at that. Not even the Pirate King had dared to dream that big. Hook, line, and sinker, he bought the hype. He decided to tolerate this brat for the sake of that glorious future. But the warning was chilling. "If you cross me, I will wipe your entire existence off the map." He ordered his crew to treat Yu Hyun as the young master, but to keep their mouths shut to the outside world. He swore on his name that if anyone leaked the info, the punishment would be instant and lethal. Finally released, Hyun drifted down the river, sobbing his eyes out. He kept gaslighting himself. "I didn't lose. This is tactical. Just wait, I'll enslave all you pirates later. As soon as I munch on that spirit grass and power up, that old fossil is catching these hands. One shot KO." Back on the shore, the Pirate King was chilling with some sake when a rude voice shattered the vibe. He turned around to see his old frenemy, Chang, screaming, "You damn water monster." The old man roared back, "I told you to leave the kids out of this." The Water King's sweat dropped, trying to explain, "Chill, bro. I didn't know your grandson was on board until later." Namgon wasn't buying it. He knew the Pirate King had even opened the boy's meridian points. That led to a very logical question. "Why are you trash-talking me? I saved him from chi deviation. You should be thanking me." But Chang just demanded the boy back, threatening to turn the Yangtze into a sea of blood if a single hair was harmed. The pirate smirked. "Is the brat your disciple?" Namong hesitated, saying no, but then realized the clout involved. "Actually, yeah, you could say that." That was the trigger. The Water King grinned wickedly. Well, he's my disciple now. So, what are you going to do if I refuse to give him back? Namgun snapped. He drew his blade and slashed instantly. The Pirate King took a nasty cut to the chest and had to dive into the river just to survive that lethal strike. He surfaced, gasping for air and screaming at his so-called buddy, "You crazy old coot. Were you actually trying to delete me just now?" The monk stood tall, radiating dominance. "Come here, I'll give you a haircut." The Pirate King wasn't backing down either. The aura clash was insane. Bring it on. Meanwhile, a random subordinate walked up carrying a whole boar, just watching two legendary masters bicker like toddlers over who strikes first. Finally, the pirate side. We're wasting time. The kid's already gone. He's heading to Wuhan. Chang paused. He knew the Water King was a scumbag, but he wasn't a liar. He sheathed his sword. "Thanks for saving my nephew." The pirate looked annoyed it took the old fool long enough to figure it out. The Water King waved it off and poured a cup of sake. "Drink up, old friend." Chang hesitated, then shrugged. As long as Hyun was safe, a drink wouldn't hurt. Meanwhile, Hyun was having zero luck. Guards already had blades pressed to his neck. "Whoa, chill. I'm Yu Hyun. This is a huge misunderstanding, fam. The Alliance will decide that," they barked. "For now, cuff him." Our smart MC decided not to resist. He needed to get inside anyway to hunt down Huang Dong. He played the humble prisoner, but his jaw dropped when he saw the city. It was a concrete jungle of gorgeous pavilions. The escort guard smiled warmly at him. Rumor on the street was this kid had soloed mountain bandits and dealt with the Yangtze pirates. But watching him gaze at the streets like a tourist, he just looked like a normal teen. Inside, though, Hyun was calculating how much clout the Alliance leader actually had. Hyun started daydreaming. If I stop the chaos, maybe they'll make me the Alliance leader. I'll turn this whole place into my personal piggy bank. Respected by all of Murim, rolling in cash, it was the ultimate retirement plan. But first, he had to find that rat Hangdu Sam and get the intel on the spiritual being. They marched him into the main tower where the Grand Advisor worked. The moment they stepped in, Hyun dropped to his knees and bowed, acting totally terrified. It wasn't just the advisor there. The Green Dragon deputy greeted him, but there was a bigger presence in the room. A gray-haired legend smiled and told him to enter. It was him, the Alliance leader, the White Warrior Lee Hawk Shan. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a mountain. It wasn't killing intent. It was pure, absolute dominance. The kind of pressure that freezes your soul instantly. His master had said, "If Lee is still breathing, humanity has a chance against the chaos." Hyun swallowed his fear and introduced himself with maximum respect. The leader saw right through him. Despite being 17, the kid's chi was already at the master level. He had the eyes of a dragon, proving the rumors about the Pirate King were true. Hyun realized he was standing before titans. One was his grand teacher, Chijel Sububom, and the other was a god among men whom even his masters bowed to. It was like walking into a tiger's den. He had to stay sharp. Subum broke the silence. "Are you the one causing trouble on the river?" Hound played the noble hero card. "I am of the Yu family. I couldn't watch pirates oppress the innocent." It was a solid excuse, but then they asked about the middle-aged man he was with. Hyun blinked. Who? He legit didn't click on who they meant. Subom narrowed his eyes. "Don't play dumb. Witnesses saw you intervene." Finally, the gears turned in Hyun's head. They were talking about Hangdu. Of course, that guy had been interrogated and kept his mouth shut. Now Hyun had to cook up the perfect lie to explain why he saved him. Time to improvise. Hun decides to pull a chaotic move and takes his swing at the T-girl. But Gramps Lee ain't having it. He snatches Hun's arm mid-air and barks, "Yo, what is the meaning of this?" Hun stares, the old man dead in the eyes. "That's my answer." The elder cracks a smile. He realizes Hun wasn't actually trying to hurt her. He was ready to throw hands instantly just to save people. Lee lets go of his arm. Boom. Plan executed perfectly. Hun puts on his best hero of justice face and asks, "So, what happened to the other guy?" Kinda sus question, right? But Hun plays it cool to avoid blowing his cover. "I don't know the guy, fam. I just heard rumors he was throwing hands and hurting innocent people." Then he goes full method actor. Slamming his fist on the table, he yells, "I just can't stand seeing innocent lives in danger." The fake rage is absolutely Oscar-worthy. He peeks through his bangs to see if the old guys bought the act. Subom nods and spills the tea. "We got the guy locked up. He's in custody for interrogation right now." Then they hit him with, "Wanna see him?" Whoa, total trap alert. Hun sips his tea, realizing they're fishing for info to figure out his connection to Huang Do-sam. But Hun is like, "Bet." He acts eager, stepping right into their trap, but only because he's writing the script now. "I was just about to ask, but we do this my way." Chiggle gives him the side eye, super suspicious of this kid's confidence. Fine, I'll warn the guards. Pull up whenever you want. Hun says thanks, laughing internally at their poker faces. But just as he dips, they drop the bomb. One question. Why didn't the Water King end you? He knew that was coming. Hun flashes a $1,000,000 grin. Simple business. We made a deal. I'm paying for the busted ships and the injured crew. Lee isn't buying it. Stop capping. The king would have flatlined you. Hun doesn't flinch. Don't believe me? Go ask him yourself if you've got the guts. The old man is about to pop a blood vessel from this kid's attitude. So Hun drops the ultimate flex. Plus, if he touched me, my dad Yong Hwan would start a literal war. That shut them up real quick. Hun bounces out of the room. Subom turns to Lee, looking confused. Yo, are we really buying this kid's story? Let him cook, Lee shrugs. As long as he's breathing, they both agree. This kid is built different. They can't sense any energy from him at all. His Dantian is completely empty, Lee says. He's not hiding his power level. The tank is just dry. It makes no sense. But wait, the old man corrects himself. I felt a kickback when I blocked him. He's not using a Dantian. He's pulling power from somewhere else entirely. If the Sword King and Water King are interested, he's a big deal. Lee decides to draft the kid. He's perfect for your little project. Subom, we need him. Subom unrolls a scroll like it's a treasure map. The Hidden Dragon Squad. We're trying to assemble the ultimate team of prodigies, but it's looking rough. Hidden dragons are usually elite heirs, nepo babies with crazy talent. It's impossible to get them to leave their families and join up. Lee starts plotting. Dr. Namong is about to level up thanks to the Water King incident. What if we spin the narrative and say that was Yu Hyun's doing? Think about it. A young prodigy fights pirates, saves the people, and survives a clash with a king. Plus, he's got the looks and the family name. We spread the rumor. Standing next to Yu Hyun gives you a power boost. It's the perfect marketing campaign to recruit the others. Subon laughs. I like how you think. Meanwhile, Hun visits his nephew. The poor guy is wrapped up like a mummy from head to toe. Suddenly, Duchian bursts in. Yo, son, you joining the Hidden Dragons. Then he freezes. He sees the young master and his soul practically leaves his body. Hun grins. Time to make this guy his servant. But simply beating him up isn't enough. He needs to find the other future masters too. Hun grabs the scroll off the table. Oh, you'll be interested in this, son. Looks like all your little friends are on the list. He snatches the scroll. Duchian panics, trying to take it back. Wait, young master. You can't read that. It's top secret, only for the elite Murim heirs. Too late. Hun scans the list. And there they are, all his future teachers, the scumbags who tortured him in his past life. An evil grin spreads across his face. This isn't a recruitment list, it's a menu. Meanwhile, his future victims have no clue what's coming. Amchanzu is out there getting bit by snakes for training. The Sword Clan heir is balancing rocks on his blade. The Shaolin monk is under a waterfall, fighting for his mental sanity. And the divine strategist? He's checking his horoscope, seeing bad vibes, and chugging booze. These are the legends Hun needs to collect. He's going to use this squad to own all his teachers. His heart races with excitement. Meanwhile, Duchian and Sun feel a sudden chill, like a grim reaper just walked by. With a terrifyingly sweet smile, Hun walks up to Elder Subom. Hey, sign me and Sun up for the Hidden Dragons right now.